Hey, shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom. We about to go live. Man, y'all make sure y'all ping if y'all on the Clubhouse. Share if you're on YouTube.
Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. Don't know what that feel like. Gon' wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still lie. Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. We don't know what that feel like. Don't wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still lie.
It's a lot of bloodthirsty wolves rapping in the prey wearing sheep's clothing. And I don't like snakes, keep my grass cut so low you can't even mow it. Boy, your ears itching, you a hypocrite. What you doing when the book closed? Woe to the pastor that scattered the chosen, causing division, we gotta expose it. My people, they out here starving, you at the ATM making deposits. Some of these niggas be worse than these Christians with fringes and ribbons on hips of their garments. Do anything for the clout, praising your house shot out of your mouth, but lead us to slaughter like slaves at the auction. You traded your life in the field for a house. In the latter days, there'll be many that are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, doctrines of devils, falling away. And in that day, many shall say, have we not prophesied in that name? But all those that loathe thy law, the same will know it after death through pain. Like damn, you was just banging on Esau. Now you all hell banging on these laws. What's up with your doctrine? I thought you was solid, my nigga. I never thought you was a fall. I know we all gotta answer to God. Yeah, how wish I know that I'm bearing my cross. But any man teaching, don't keep the commandments. The least up in heaven, I'm praying for y'all.
False prophets, don't know what that feel like. Gon' wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still lie. Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. We don't know what that feel like. Don't wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still lie. You still lie.
So we about to get started. Awesome show for y'all tonight. 113 on the YouTube side. It should be 113 likes. Y'all know how I go. Wipe off your feet when you come in my house. That's how we respect in the South. On the Clubhouse side, hit the ping. It's gonna be a great conversation. All respect, all love. Shout out to both brothers that's with us tonight. We about to get started in a second.
It's Friday night, and you know what time it is. It's another episode of Inside the Nation Radio with your host, Ahrayahla. Hit that subscribe and like button. It's showtime.
Mic check, mic check. Hey, shalom, 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 and shalom. Y'all know I've been doing that intro, shalom, 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 since I started Inside the Nation. I don't even know how long I've been doing Inside the Nation, which probably is a shame. I think about 5 or 6 years at this point, somewhere around there, right? But that's how I always, start my intro, shalom, 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 because I want to, brothers say shalom, brothers say shalom, some say shalom. Me, I say we all one body of Christ, you know what I mean? So therefore, I just want to greet brothers and respect how they, want to be respected. And I take it from there. But tonight, the reason I bring it up is because we have a conversation actually talking about the language itself. Is it shalom? Is it shalom? Is it shalom? Which one is it? Now, I do want to say this before we get started. I'm going to get the brothers in here right away. I want to say this before we get to the brothers real quick, right? Whatever you think it is, whatever you believe it is, whatever you believe the evidence shows or not shows, or what's sufficient, what's not sufficient, one thing should still be evident amongst all of us, and that's respect. You know what I mean? We all should respect each other. You know what I mean? This is the discussion, and the discussion is being had so we can increase, whether you increase and learn something new or you teach something new, whatever the case may be. So we just want to respect each other. So the brothers is going to start the conversation. This is how we're going to set it up. We're going to open up, get the brothers on here in a second. They're going to start off having a conversation with one another. After they have their conversation, we're going to move to a phase where I just ask each brother a couple questions. And after that, they're going to do a presentation each, okay? Going to make the presentation quick. And then after that, we're going to open up for questions. So if you got a question on the Clubhouse stage, or if you're calling in on the phones, when you call in on the phone, you get one question or comment. After you get your response, then you get one follow-up question or comment. After that, you're going to get out the phone line. It's not holding up the phone lines, holding, long drawn out conversation. Same thing on the Clubhouse stage. If you come up to the stage because you got a question or a comment, you get one question or comment. After you get your response, you get a follow-up question or comment, and then we're going to move you back to the audience. Each brother is going to have 3 questions. All right. A total of 6 questions. All right. Afterwards. And after that, we're going to shut it down because, hey, shout out to the big Ahrayahla. He can't be on here too long. He is a brand new father. And we want to respect that and let him get back to his family. So we about to get the brothers on right now. Let me get them over here. All right. On the YouTube side, y'all can see the brothers, right? Hey, drop a 1 in the chat. Ahrayahla, hey,
Abaya,
shalom,
you're
Mark.
muted on the Clubhouse side.
Oh, I don't want mute on the Clubhouse side. My fault. I appreciate that because I did the whole show that way. I didn't even see it. hey, so the brothers, Ahrayahla and Zion, can y'all give a quick mic check? I just want to make sure them in the audience, they can hear y'all on both sides, YouTube and Clubhouse.
Check.
All right. Hey, on the YouTube side, if y'all can hear them, drop a 1 in the comment section. Yakira, KT, Tiara, can one of y'all tell me if y'all was able to hear the brothers or not?
We can hear him.
Awesome. Drop a 1, and I see all 1s. Okay, so we about to get things rolling. But again, before we do, right now, 212 people watching already. There should be 212 likes. Respect my house. In the South, when we walk in somebody's house, we dust our feet off on the rug. How you do that on the YouTube side is hitting that like button. Support the platform so we can continue to bring you more great topics and conversations like we're about to have. But without further ado, let me back up because y'all ain't come to see me tonight. Y'all came to see these 2 brothers have a great conversation. 2 scholars, you know what I mean, have a great conversation. And so I'm going to back up. Brother Zion Lexx and the brother Shar, Ahrayahla. I'm going to let y'all have it. Whoever want to go first, I'm going to let y'all jump in. We'll start the conversation about the language. Why we here.
Oh, praise the Most High. You can start off with Zion.
All right, I think we basically here to decide, which is the language of our ancestors. I think we both understand that knowing what the ancient Hebrew language sounded like, knowing what the ancient Hebrew language grammar system was like, is imperative towards understanding the scripture. And it's also imperative towards the revival of the culture and system within the language. So that's all I'm here for. Nothing personal. I actually like Ahrayahla. I'm not too familiar with him in terms of all of his teachings, but from what I saw so far, I actually like the brother. I'm not coming here to be a church member, sing kumbaya, but by all means, regardless of a difference of opinion, that's still my brother. And hopefully we could put on a great show for the people.
Awesome.
No praise to the Most High. So yeah, I agree with what the brother's saying. Of course, I am a former member of Sakari, right? One of the founding members of House of Bread, and of course, we come from what's categorized as the One West ilk, so to speak. And when I came into the truth back in 2018, I was very focused on learning the language. And I learned from the late great elder Qadash Allah from the House of David. And as I embarked on learning the language and just learning the basics, I embarked to learn the language and understand the language, not to be fluent, right? Not to be fluent in speaking it, but truly to have a better grasp of the scriptures. You know what I mean? So, the script. Isaiah 28 in verse 11 says, "For with stammering lips and another tongue will the Lord speak to this people," right? So over the course of time, our scriptures were translated into various languages, and it's very important to have a full grasp of the scriptures to understand the source languages. So that's what I embarked to do, brand spanking new in the truth. So, how I vocalize the Hebrew versus how the good brother Zion vocalizes the Hebrew. In my humble opinion, I think it's a matter of tomato, potato. And as we go through the dialogue, we can explore even that aspect a little bit more.
All right. So here's what we about to do. We just going to jump into the conversation. you guys, a lot of y'all are here because y'all saw the brother Zion Lexx do a presentation on this platform. He also did one on his platform, and the brother Ahrayahla did a peer review on his platform. And a lot of people, if not everybody here, saw that. So there's no need for long drawn out introductions. We already had that. So I'm just going to move myself out the way. And brothers, let's talk about it. Why is the Lashawan Qadash wrong, or why is it not wrong? Like, is it correct language or is it not? I'm gonna let y'all have it.
So I'll say this, right? As I embarked to learn the language, of course, I learned from the perspective of the viewpoint of Lashawan Qadash, right? And I've said this for quite some time, that the syntax and the grammar that a lot of brothers employ who adhere to Lashawan Qadash is incorrect. When I look at the language, I look at it from how the scriptures, how the actual text examines the language, right? So I'll give you an example. A common phrase in the Hebrew Israelite community of the One West Oak is Yahweh Ba Hashem Yahweh Shah Barakatah. And that is poor grammar. So understanding the grammar, understanding how to properly form sentences in Hebrew is important, right? That's grammatically incorrect. We have examples of this in the scriptures, right? When we look at the blessing that Moses tells the Aaronites to bless Israel with, you see the phrase Yabaraka Yahweh, right? Wa Yashamarka, wa Ya'ar Yahweh, Pani wa Aliyaka wa Yachanka, right? That's how I will vocalize it in the Lashawan Qadash, right? Obviously, my good brother Zion will vocalize it differently. But that grammatical structure is important, and brothers who are seeking to learn the language on this side, they don't look at it from the grammatical standpoint. What they do is they will employ English syntax to Hebrew. And when we look at the English language, look at the Hebrew language, they're different. Like, for example, kind of like Spanish, you will have the noun, right? And then you will have, let's say, for instance, in Spanish, right? I want to say a blue book. You will say libro azul. It's the same in Hebrew, where the noun, the adjective comes after the noun. But because brothers are looking at the Hebrew language from a English perspective, that's where the grammar issues come into play. And I'm sure the brother Zion would agree with that.
All right. So what I'll say to that is that for me it's hard to decipher or differentiate Lashawan Kodash from what we call in biblical Hebrew Lashon Kodesh. For me, it's hard to look at the difference as a mere one is saying tomato, the other is saying tomato. From an English perspective, it really doesn't matter whether you're saying tomato or tomato because both words mean the same thing. Hebrew is different though. And that's why it becomes problematic because Aleph is the letter one. It's also the word for teach. It's also the word for ox. Aluf is the word for chief. It also can mean a chieftain or a group of chieftains, as in the book of Genesis, chapter 36, the chief men over the Edomites, they're called Alufim, right? So when you shift the vowel, you can quite literally change meaning. So in an English paradigm, and in the English experience of language, tomato, yeah, it doesn't matter because there is no alternate term tomato that would mean anything different from tomato. Whereas Hebrew, that's absolutely a different word once you change that pronunciation. And then where I want to gradually take us is to also understand this. Lashawan Kodash is not simply a vocalization system, it's an alphabetic system, right? And so it's syllabic in nature, the way that it's treated. They say ba, ga, da, ha, right? So every consonant is a syllable. That's problematic because we know from the ancient record, as well as what we see in modern history, that every Hebrew letter represents an idea that actually comes out in a word. So the first word is not ah, it's aleph. And aleph can mean an ox, it can mean teach. The second letter is bait. That's a house. That can also be an academy. So ah, ba, ga, da, not only, you know, negates all of the rules within the language, but it also negates the lexical value of each word. All of us I can't maybe not say all. Most of us grew up where English is our first language. I grew up in a Caribbean home where patois was my first language, but for most of us, English was my first language, right? So for us, that experience is quite different than people who are, polyglots or speak more than one language. So again, harping on this notion that every word, every letter of the alphabet is actually a word. In English, we don't think that the word Nike, Nike, why was that word chosen for that name? What does N mean? What does I mean? What does K mean? What does E mean? None of us thinks about that in English because in the English alphabet, none of those letters have any meaning on their own. A is negative. It means to negate. X is the unknown. Apart from that, English has no meaning. Hebrew is different. The reason why Hebrew words carry the meanings that they have is because of the individual letters. So each letter of the Hebrew alphabet is an actual stone, and each stone comes together to give us a house, and each house tells us a narrative and paints a picture of what it is that we're looking at. So for me, that lies some of the difference.
So what I'll say to that is, when I'm looking at the characters, I do look at them as, again, you say Aleph, I say Alap, right? You say Be, I say Bayaf, right? You say Gamel, I say Gamal, right? And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like this tomato thing, right? You mentioned the word aloof. I would say alawap, right? So it aloof alawap. I don't see too much of a difference. Same thing with shalom versus shalom. I don't see too much of a difference. On your when you were on here last week, you had showed the Samaritan Israelite. And the way that he vocalizes Hebrew is different from the way that you vocalize Hebrew, right? But you could understand what he's saying. Why is it? Why can't you understand what I would be saying? Just me vocalizing it differently.
It's an excellent point. I'll give the example that you just used. You said you would say alawaf. Am I quoting you correctly
Alawap,
for
alawap.
alawap? Alawap, right?
Hmm.
So you're treating in the word alawap, you're treating the wa as a consonant. I'm treating it as a vowel. So by treating it as a consonant, you're now changing the root, and that's the problem. You see, in Hebrew, all meanings for Hebrew words are primarily based on a binary root that's consistent of two consonants, a triliteral root that's consistent of three consonants, and sometimes you have a root that is of four and even five. Those are rare, but they do exist in the Torah. But we know that for the most part, when we talk about radical positions in letters, we know we're talking about the triconsonantal formation or the shoresh, the Hebrew root words. So by saying alawap, you've now introduced the letter wav as a consonant. By adding it as a consonant, you're now interrupting the meaning. It no longer carries the meaning of teach. It no longer carries the meaning of ox. That meaning comes from the consonants aleph, lamed, peh. You're adding aleph, lamed, wa, peh as a consonant, that wa. By adding that wa, you're adding to the meaning, to which I would have to ask, what meaning is that? Because we don't have any word in the Hebrew language with that meaning. So that's where it becomes problematic. And this goes for any given word that is pronounced in Lashawan Qadash, that is typically treated in Hebrew grammar as a vowel or vowel letter, and you guys pronounce it as a consonant. When you do that, you are disrupting the lexical value, or you're quite literally changing the meaning.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So when I pull up, for instance, the word aloof, as you call it, right?
Mhm.
And I look at how it's used in the text, right? And let's say, for instance, it's translated 69 times in the scriptures. Translated 57 times as Duke, right? You have the Dukes of Edom, right? As guide, four times friend, twice, governor twice, captain once, governor once, right? So when I pull up this word, if I pull this word up in Strong's, right, on the blue letter, right, I'm going to see this word. I'll literally see Aleph, Lamed, Wa, and Pa. And then the root etymology goes back to the word Allah. So I'm truly not seeing the difference. Again, I'm just vocalizing it differently than you are. The same way the Samaritan gentleman, he vocalizes the Hebrew different from you. The same way if you go to so-called Yemeni Jews, right? Their form of Hebrew is different and vocalized different from the traditional Masoretic Tiberian vocalization, and that's why I'm saying, to me, it's truly tomato in that regard.
I definitely get that, but I'm gonna follow back and stress something that I mentioned a bit briefly earlier. So yes, when you look up the word aluf, or as you say alawap, it'll be spelled aleph lamed wav pay. That's a fact. But here's the thing: it brings you back to what's the root. And the root consists of three letters, not four. Those three letters are Aleph, Lamed, Pei, without the Wav. And it's the Ahmed Lamed Pei that's the meaning of the word. That Wav in the middle is the vocalization. It's not a consonant. If it's treated as a consonant, it's now disrupting the meaning. So what I'm saying now is the meaning, and this goes with all Hebrew words for the most part in the Bible, apart from, again, binary words, two consonants, or words consisting of four or more. But when words are rooted in a triconsonantal root form, it's always three letters. And in the word aluf, the root is not aleph, lamed, wav, pei. That's four letters. The root, as you could see right now on your screen, I know it's showing you that, it's aleph, lamed, pei.
Mm-hmm.
That's the root meaning. That's the lexical meaning. Now, tonnage is added to add range to meaning, right? And this is why vocalization of the text within grammar is important, because when you shift tone, it'll dictate the tense, whether we're talking about the past, present, or the future. When you shift tone, it'll talk about who's speaking. Are you speaking? Am I speaking? Are they speaking? So by changing vocalization, we can determine whether or not it's a male speaking, a woman speaking. Are we speaking of the future, the infinitive? Are we speaking of the past, the perfect? Vocalization determines those things. What does not determine that is root.
I hear you. We just got, of course, we have to agree to disagree. I don't see it that way. And the same way you may look at a glass half full and I may look at it half empty. Same thing with the language. I'm looking at it because I understand that the writing system, right, that we employed, right, whether it's looking at proto-synaptic, right, whether you're looking at so-called Proto-Canaanite, Paleo-Hebrew, right, that those scripts, that's an abjad, it's a consonantal language. I'm looking at these as consonants for that reason. Now, when we look at like a topic of matrices lectiones, and how that starts to get introduced into the Hebrew language, what I see is that the Hebrew language, like all languages, change over time, similar to English, right? If you look at a book that's written in Middle English, right, the average English speaker today is not going to be able to understand it, right? Because again, languages change over the course of time, and we're talking about Hebrew. Would you agree that Hebrew is the original source language?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
when we look at, for instance, Genesis 11, right, the Tower of Babel, right, the Most High God sent His angels to come down and to confound languages, and now we see all these different languages. Some scholars may categorize these languages as Shemitic, right? They may categorize these as Indo-European. All this confounding of languages, all right, it all comes from that original Hebrew. And again, so when we look at just how language changes over time, when I'm looking at the way that you vocalize Hebrew versus how the Samaritan gentleman vocalizes Hebrew versus how I vocalize Hebrew versus how a so-called Yemeni Jew in Yemen will vocalize Hebrew, what that just tells me is that language changes, and that dialect and how people vocalize things changes over time, and there's various influences. Like, for instance, when we look at the Masoretic text, right, the Tiberian vocalization system. I saw your response to my response to you. You brought into history how the Sanhedrin, they left from Jerusalem, they made their way up to Yavne, all the way up to Tiberias, right? And that's amazing, right? So that vocalization system, a lot of scholars believe that the Palestinian vocalization system, which predates the Tiberians, a lot of scholars see that as, well, it's a continuation. But then you compare that to the Babylonian vocalization, that's completely different. And then that Babylonian vocalization gives way to the current Yemeni Hebrew, the way that Yemeni Jews speak Hebrew, right? So again, what I'm just looking over the course of history is how language changes, and all those language changes has to deal with how these different people who are speaking these languages interact with other people around them who speak different languages and or dialects.
No, I definitely bear witness to the fact you're speaking truth on a great level. I bear witness to the fact that language shifts and it evolves, right? You have a consonantal drift. You have letters that can be deemed what we call nasalized letters. You have consonantal omissibility. So a word may begin in Egypt, but by the time it comes into the Hebrew language as a loan word, right, you may have a consonant being omitted, you may have a consonant added. In linguistics, that refers to the omissibility of consonants, suffixes in general. So I'm definitely understanding that point. Also, towards your point that Abu Kohen, the Samaritan Israelite, when he spoke Hebrew, the Samaritan vocalization system employs the E, the I, the O, and the U vowel system. But when you heard him speak, he sounded slightly different than me. When you heard me speak, you heard me sound slightly different from him. So that goes towards the point that you had pointed out in your presentation. You had looked in Akkadian grammar, which I had made mention of, and you saw that the scholars said that they didn't know exactly how it was pronounced. But right below it, the scholar says, but we do know that they use A, E, I, O, and U, and we know what their consonants were. So that's the same point towards the Samaritan Israelite. He has the A, he has the I, he has the E, he has the U. We're using the same consonants, we're using the same vowels, but because of the fact that he's in the region of Samaria and they have a tradition that develops there, they practice the language slightly different based on their tradition, so to speak. And that happens in Afro-Asiatic languages. That happens in every language throughout the world. But I definitely want to get a very, very important point across about scholars. You made mention that the scholars show the migration of scholars going from Jerusalem to Tiberias, and scholars also point out how language evolves. So, on the note of scholars, I'll ask you this question: since you are looking at what scholars has to say in some sense about the history of the language evolution, what scholarly attestation do you have, or have you been aware of, that is in agreement with Lashawan Qadash and its system? Anything from the current modern world or in the ancient world? What academic sources rigorously agree with those points that you have?
Gotcha. So give me 1 second. So this is from Slovakia. Give me a second, right? And just to I'm going to answer your question, and you know, and this is my gripe with Hebrew Israelites, especially one West Hebrew Israelites. We a lot of times we just regurgitate things that we heard people say, right? And we don't look into it. And so to that point, right? This source right here is from. Give me a second. This is second edition Basics of Biblical Hebrew Grammar by Gary D. Pratico and Miles V. Van Pelton. So in chapter 2 of this book, right, it says that advanced information alternative vowel classification. Originally, there were only 3 vowel classes in Hebrew: A class, I class, and U class. The other vowel classes, E class and O class, developed later. The E class developed from the original I class, and the O class developed from the original U class. For this reason, most grammarians prefer to divide Hebrew vowels into 3 A, I, U rather than 5 A, E, I, O, U classes. By doing this, E class vowels are considered to be a subset of I class, and O class vowels are considered to be a subset of U class. So when it comes to Lashawan Qadash, right, it's commonly stated that there's only 2 vowel sounds, right? Ah and I, right? Well, what I will say is that when you really look at it, not necessarily you do have a U class sound. For instance, I'll give you the word Torah, right? We depending on who you ask, right, who follows Lashon Kodash, they'll either say Thawara or Thora, right? That all gives you that oo sound, right? Another example would be what's the word I'm thinking of? Jerusalem, right? Some would say Yerushalayim, some would say Yarowashalayim, right? And depending on how you're looking at it, again, you have that U class with that all sound.
Okay, I like that. Um, Two things. I'm going to make a statement, but I want to ask you a question. Are you aware of a teaching in the New Testament that speaks of Jerusalem on high, the Jerusalem in heaven?
What particular
It's in the book of Revelations. The book of Revelations mentions there being a Jerusalem in heaven, or quote unquote a heavenly Jerusalem. Are you familiar with that?
what exact chapter
Uh,
and verse are you speaking of?
okay, I could give you the exact one right now. Just give me a second.
I'm familiar with the book of Revelation.
Yes, yes. Okay, it's mentioned in Hebrews 12 and 22. It's also mentioned in Revelation 21.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I could get you the exact verse in Revelation 21, but it's in Hebrews 12, 22 through 29. It speaks of Jerusalem on high, or the Jerusalem in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, as a matter of fact, I'll read it. But ye are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to make a point now. So towards the point of pronunciation, here is an example from scriptures why pronunciation matters. You would agree, and I don't mean to be silly, but you would agree that most human beings have two hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's the template and design, right? You
Mm-hmm.
would agree that we have two eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in Hebrew, we have something that's called the singular, right? We have the plural, but we also have the dual.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they're differentiated is vocalization. The plural you would say is for male. Uh, we say im. The plural for female is ot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then
Oh, wow.
Hebrew accounts for what's called the dual.
Mm-hmm.
So the word for Jerusalem in biblical Hebrew is Yerushalayim, Ayim. Anytime a Hebrew noun ends with ayim, that's the dual noun. When you're saying that in Lashawan Qadash, it doesn't account for that. So you're actually missing out on something that you wouldn't even need scripture for. Whereas a novice would need to read the Bible to know that there are two Jerusalems, one in earth and one in the heaven. Someone that knows the language, that never read the Bible, but if they hear me say Yerushalayim and they understand the language and they know Ayim denotes dual, two, then they say, where's the second Jerusalem? And I'd say, what do you mean? And he'd say to me, well, you said Yerushalayim. So I know that there are two. The Hebrew word for hand is yad. I have two hands, so I have yadayim. The Hebrew word for eye is ain or anai. I have anayim, eyes, right? The dual plural is ayim. When you're saying that in Lashawan Kodash, that feature doesn't even exist because you're treating what we would refer to as vowels as consonants. And again, that is brutally changing the meaning.
So, question to that: how would you spell Jerusalem with Hebrew characters?
Easy. Yerushalayim is spelled Yod, Shin, Resh, Yod, Lamed, Mem.
You said what now?
Yod, Shin, Resh, Ayin, Lamed, Yod, Mem.
Well, when
And
I
it and also to be clear, it varies in scripture. Sometimes the changing switches. So for instance, even King David's name, all throughout the book of Samuel's and Kings, David's name is spelled Dalet Wav Dalet. In the
Mhm.
book of Chronicles, and only in the book of Chronicles, apart from I think one or two Psalms, David's name is spelled with additional letter, the letter Yod. So
Mhm.
sometimes variation in spelling exists, but that's the general spelling that I just gave you.
Gotcha. So I'll be honest. I've never seen it. I've never seen Jerusalem with the Yod Mem at the end. I'm looking at it and I see, okay, that makes sense, right? But I'm seeing Yod Resh Wav Shin Lamed Mem, and then Yod Resh Wav Shin Lamed Yod Mem. Those are the two variations. So you mentioned the Book of Hebrews. Can you show me? The Book of Hebrews is translated from Greek. Same thing with the Book of Revelation, not Hebrew. But again, I do see that. I've never noticed that, so that's very interesting. Um, with that said, I think if you were looking at a text where it spells it one way versus another place in the text where it spells it the other way, you would vocalize it based on what you're seeing. And so I would vocalize it as Yerushalayim or Yerushalayim. Simple, and again, honestly, that difference to me again still leans to tomato. But yeah,
Okay.
That's interesting, brother.
Okay, I definitely enjoy that sentiment. Um, what I definitely want to question you though is again on sources. You mentioned that there's an academic source that speaks of a Hebrew originally having A, I, and E. And if I'm saying something wrong, stop me. You said that the development of O and U comes much later, but Hebrew did in fact have A, I, and E. So
No,
if
no,
you
it was A I N U. So
okay,
Slack.
so A, I, and U.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are acknowledging that there's an actual source that says that,
Mm-hmm.
how would you deal with that in ideology as it pertains to Lashawan Qadash? Because Lashawan Qadash doesn't bear witness to the you.
So again, the example that I gave with Torah and Jerusalem, right? That depending on how you're looking at it, some people will say Thorah, some people will say Thawara, right? Some people will say Yarowashalom, some people will say Yerushalayim. So depending on how you're looking at that, that all sound, that's that U class that is being attested to there. That's what I would say to that.
Okay, okay, I enjoy that. And again, on the notion of dual plurals and why I believe, and why scholars are saying that vocalization matters. Even the word for heaven, like in Lashawan Qadash, how do you say heaven?
Shemayim.
Say it again.
Shemayim.
Shemayam.
Shemayim. Yep. Khan.
Okay. So, all right. So we say Shemayim, right? And again, that ayim is a dual plural. And we know that because there are different levels of heaven,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even the Hebrew Bible employs 7 words to describe heaven. It's not always the word Shemayim. Sometimes it's the word Rakia. Sometimes it's the word Zevu.
Permanent.
There
Yeah.
are 7 words that describe the heavens because there are literally 7 heavens or 7 dimensions or layers to what we call heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That is within the language itself. The language captures that. When you say heaven, you know that there's more than one. So that's in part why I'm saying vocalization matters. Um, I'm not sure if Abia has any questions for us, because I would definitely like to see what your presentation is with respect to what I shared, because you responded to my presentation here, and then I responded to your presentation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm now waiting to see what was your response. So unless Abia has anything for us, I would definitely love to see what was your response to what I shared, or
Yeah.
if we have anything new to add.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I would before I do that, I wanted to ask you a question. How would you vocalize the phrase "My God," and then how would you vocalize the phrase? Oh, well, not the phrase, the name Elijah.
All right, my God is Eli.
Okay.
Eli. The yod at the end is possessive. My God, right? My God, mine. You can say of, right? It's possessive. The yod at the end is possessive. We
Mm-hmm.
refer to Elijah as Eliyahu.
Mm-hmm.
Eliyahu.
Gotcha. So for you've been in this thing for years, um, and I know you were other OT only persuasion for some time, right? So I want to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 46. And this is right before Yahweh Shai, you would say Yeshua, is getting ready to give up the ghost. So, verse 46, it says, "And about the ninth hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, This man calleth for Elias," which would be Elijah. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink, right? So my question is, if the phrase "my God is Eli," right, and you would vocalize Elijah as Eliyahu, how could someone who was listening to Christ mistake him saying Eliyahu versus Eli?
I think that's subjective because I don't know what would be their thinking. There could be a number of reasons. So if I could be brutally honest with you, I don't know how that could be reconciled. There could be a number of reasons for why that was, right? Who was close to him, whether or not it was a third party. Did somebody directly hear him say it? I don't know what all of those factors are. But what I do know, and I'm glad you brought that out, is do you believe that that Yeshua spoke Hebrew, or do you believe he spoke in Aramaic?
I believe, based on what I see in the scriptures, that every example we see of him speaking, right, someone attesting to him speaking, it always says in the Hebrew tongue, right? Even when he was crucified, his inscription, it was written in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, not Aramaic. So, well, I'm not going to go on the record and say I don't think Christ understood Aramaic. I'm sure he probably understood some Greek too, but I wouldn't say that that was his normal day-to-day language, because again, I'm looking at what the text tells me. What the text tells me, every example of someone attesting to him speaking to them, it always says in the Hebrew tongue. So the reason why I asked about Matthew 27-46 is because according to Lashawan Qadash, right, we would say my God is Ahrayahla, right? The yod again at the end denoting possession. Allah meaning God, Yah, my God, right? And then we would say Elijah's name, depending on where you're looking at it, because like Elijah's name is rendered Aleph Lamed Yod Hey Wav, and sometimes it doesn't have that last Wav. So for instance, Malachi 4 and 5, it's rendered without the Wav. So Elijah's name is either Ahrayahla or Ahrayah. So Allah, so them hearing him saying Ahrayah, right? And them thinking, is he calling on Elijah, Ahrayah? Like, that's easy for them to mistaken. I don't see how that works if my God and Elijah is Eli versus Eliyahu.
Well, I could tell you since what he spoke wasn't written, there's a lot of things that could have been mistaken for as well. Aliyah is an ascent. When a plane goes up, the plane is making an aliyah. It's going up, right? Our burnt offerings is called an olah, spelled the exact same way, aliyah, olah, right? So there's a number of words that can be mistaken. So that proves the point that I'm making, which is what I've said to you, that if that phrase can easily be misunderstood, because based on pronunciation alone, phonology alone, there could be a number of words that's referring to. Whenever I ask someone what is their Hebrew name, and they say it to me and it's a name I don't really recognize because that could be a couple of different words based on the spelling, I always ask them to spell it for me. Because if you're spelling it with the ayin, I now know what you mean. If you spell ra'ah, which is the Hebrew word for what? We don't know what that is. It could be C, but that's also the same spelling and vocalization of evil. If you change the letters from an aleph to an ayin, you're now talking about the word evil. So I might say ra'ah, right? Right? Which one am I talking about? So to my point, what I'm saying is anybody that knows the language knows that the spelling as well as the vocalization is important towards a word's meaning. And that's what I had in the presentation when I responded to you. Hebrew words are not getting their lexical value meaning primarily on consonantal development, but it's a combination between the consonants and the vocal, how you're saying it, right? So again, one word can have several different meanings. And again, that's very, very important. But
Well,
let me ask you this. Let me add in really quickly before y'all go forward. So we're having a conversation first. I know we're gonna get to the PowerPoints. I'm gonna forego my questions because you guys are pretty much answering them anyway. What I was going to be asking. So we'll just go to that. So you want to agree that we'll probably go another 10 to 15 minutes, then we jump into the presentations?
It depends, because I know Ahrayahla said.
Yeah, we can go into the presentation right there, but I just wanted to ask you. So I just wanted to respond to that. So the word for to see in Hebrew, ra'ah, right, where we get the even word seer from, right? Even Reuben's name, right? I'm assuming you would say Reuven, right, or Reuben for Reuben, right? We would pronounce it Ra'awaban, right? Ra'ah, right, is spelled different than evil, which is either Rai with the ayin, or depending on how you're looking at it, the word wickedness is Rashai. So again, looking at how I'm vocalizing it versus how you're vocalizing it, we're looking at it from a different perspective. And again, I see that as the same as how the Samaritan gentleman, yourself, as well as even the Yemeni, so-called Yemeni Jew, is going to vocalize the Hebrew language completely different.
All right. I think the presentation is really going to spell out the major differences, but I'll add one more feature. So if we're going, and this is my last question to you before the presentation, if we're going by Lashawan Qadash, right? You have the word. I noticed on your Facebook page, you call yourself the Goyim Killer, right? I read
that was old. That was old. That was very.
No.
I don't even know how to change that, John. But yeah.
I like the term. I dig it. I like the term. But I noticed that you wrote it in Lashawan Qadash, but that's not my point that you wrote it there. But I know Hebrew, so I knew what you were saying. You were calling yourself the Goyim killer. So on the note of the word for killer, ratzak, which you would say ratazak, right? Going through the Hebrew verbal system, how would you say in Lashawan Qadash, he killed, she killed, they killed? Based on grammar, how would you differentiate between who's doing the killing? Him, her, they. How would you pronounce it, or how would you spell it? What would you do to change that meaning?
Yeah, so for he killed, from my understanding, and I'll tell you this, right? So it was a few weeks ago. I had made a post about Hebrew and how the way we here in the One West community we haven't looked at it from more of that grammatical side, right? So this is something that I've been diving into, is understanding the different roots, the different stems, like how to, like, because like for instance, I studied Spanish in school, right? So I know if I have an AR verb, an ER verb, an IR verb, I'm going to conjugate it a certain way in this given tense, right? As I'm looking at Hebrew and trying to figure out, right, looking at verbs and how to properly conjugate them, given the stem. So you have the stem, and then you also have the what's the face, Salakia is the word. Term is evading me right now, right? You have the stems like Hefel, Hofel, so forth and so forth, Kital, right? I haven't found like a set like rule per se on how to go about and conjugate that verb properly. So in terms of like, for instance, he kill, I would say Yaratazach, Ya he kill. And again, depending on the tense that I'm looking to do, again, I haven't gotten to that point yet, and truly knowing how to do that for every single Hebrew verb.
That's okay. I'll respond lightly and I'll say this. By saying Ya Ratazak, it is masculine, but it's masculine future. It's not he killed, it's he will kill. So you just made it based on that pronunciation and even spelling, you just made it he will kill. I'm saying he killed, she killed, they killed, right? Present tense or past tense, right? You said he will kill. That maybe we could argue that out, but all right. But yeah,
Well,
I would
again,
love to see.
so again, to answer your question, again, listen, guys, I am not Zion's peer, right? I'm not his peer, right? He's studied the intricacies of Hebrew grammar and these stems and these roots a lot longer than I have, right? As I'm growing more and more, I'll give you an example. Like for instance, within the Hebrew Israelite community, right? There's a Lord's Prayer that has been said by Hebrew Israelites of One Wealth for I don't know how long, decades, right? And it's coined Adawan Palal, which don't make sense because the word Palal is a verb which means to pray, right? The word for prayer is different, it's Thapala, right? So I actually, as of recently, right, went and retranslated the Lord's Prayer, given these different roots, right, and looking at how it would actually be rendered given the stem, the tense, and all those different things. But that's not something I have mastered just yet. So again, the reason why I said just off the top of my brain how I would say that, right? Again, being not completely ignorant of how these roots work, but not knowing all the intricacies of how to properly conjugate said verbs. That's why I said Yaratazak. In
All
that.
right. All right. I think that we could definitely go ahead and see what you have to present, and then I'll present, and then Abia, it's your show. I'm not here to dictate what happens next, but he's gonna present, I'm gonna present, and then you're gonna administer the show the way in which you want to.
Right. That's the format. Listen, before we get to that, these brothers are bringing y'all, I don't care what your stance is, these brothers are bringing out some valuable information and taking their time out. I'm taking my time out. Y'all on the platform, there is almost 400 people watching with 170 likes. Support the platform, support the effort, support the presentations. Hit the like button. It's free. You don't even have to pay for it. It's free. Trust me, you ain't gonna get no bill in the mail saying you got to pay for it later. Hit the like button, support the platform. All right, let me get you set up here. Ahrayahla, let me get your and then we will get right to it. Give me 1 second. While I'm getting this set up, y'all make sure y'all hit the like button. If you're on the Clubhouse side, make sure you ping, because if they not over here, you know what I mean, getting this information, then man, I don't know what to tell you. But anywho, let's do it. Are you ready, Ahrayahla, for your
Not.
all right, let's make sure I got it right. There we go. We on the
Okay.
screen, and whenever you want me to go next, just let me know, and I'll be on the next one.
Gotcha. So again, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh, and I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world called Jesus Christ. Again, obviously, I am pro Lashawan Qadash. Again, not everything that has been presented from the elders. Again, I truly believe that we need to grow and we need to learn and we need to advance, right? And this applies to not only the language, this applies to, you know, how we view certain prophecies, how we break down certain scriptures, things of that nature. The scriptures say in Daniel the 12th chapter that knowledge shall increase in the last, right? So all praise to the Most High. So the way I look at life in general, I try to look at life through the lens of the scriptures in all aspects, right? And for me, the most important thing is prophecy, right? The Apostle Paul talks about different gifts, right? Someone might have the gift of tongues, right, which is languages, right? Some may have the gift of prophecy, right? And prophecy, he tells you to covet that gift, the gift of prophecy, right? So that's how I look at everything from that lens, right? Let's go forward. Oh dang! Why is it? What's going on?
Can you not see it?
I can see, but all the words are messed up on the presentation. I'm not sure why.
I'm not sure what font you were using, good brother, but I could tell you from experience, sometimes depending upon whether you upload it from an iPhone, an Android, or even like an Apple laptop, the
Mhm.
font will change based on certain systems and it'll look just like this because the system may not be able to interpret it. So if this is Paleo Hebrew, that's definitely why that's happening. And it could be also Biblical Hebrew.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
it did come through that way.
Okay. That's weird. Okay, no, I know why that happened now. Makes sense. So yeah, that's the reason why. So this is Revelation 19:10, right? And I'll just read it. Right. It says, and I fell to his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus, Yahweh Shai, Yeshua, however you want to pronounce it. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Right. So prophecy, right? That's the testimony, right? If we move forward, Isaiah 8:20, right? To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, there is no light in them. So the litmus test and the standard is the law and the prophets, right? Move forward, please. And then, so here on this slide, I have the law and the prophets, right? So according to Isaiah 8:20, the law and the prophets is the standard. So my question is, what does the law and the prophets or the testimony say concerning this topic, right? If we move forward, Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1, it says, And it shall come to pass when all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, that thou shalt call them to mind, right? So this scripture, as well as other scriptures, show that how we would discontinue from our heritage, how we would lose ourselves, right? Thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God have driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God and obey his voice according to all that I command thee, thou and thy children, all thine heart and with all thy soul, right? Again, you couple this with Jeremiah 17:4, which says that we would discontinue from our heritage. That includes our land, that includes the law, which is set up to be our inheritance, and of course that would be our language, right? You can move forward. Yeah, Isaiah 28 and verse 9. It says, For stammering lips and another tongue will the Lord speak to this people. So prophetically, we see that the Most High God would speak to us through different languages, right? And this is why the transmission and the translation of the Bible has been paramount in us waking up and knowing who we are, right? How could Deuteronomy 30 be fulfilled, where it says that we will return to the voice of the Lord thy God, and then he will redeem us. He will gather us from the four corners of the earth. How could that happen, right? If through all the curses that we will go through, we would be taken far, far, far away from our culture, far, far, far away from our identity, right? We would have to remember ourselves. And again, the prophet Isaiah lets us know that Most High God will speak to us with a different tongue, right? You can move forward. So Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8, it says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent, right? So here we see the Most High God through the prophet Zephaniah, right? He promises that he's going to return to us a pure language, right? What this tells me is that our language has become unpure over the course of time, and that comes through various different mechanisms, right? Through what's going through captivity, right? I'll give you an example. When we look at pre-exilic Israel versus post-exilic Israel, right? We come back into the land, right, and we have all these names for these months, right? We literally adopted the Babylonian nomenclature for their months, one of which those months is called Tammuz. Tammuz is a pagan deity, right? So again, our language would become unpure over the course of time, right? Move forward, Baba Kushai. Right? So Isaiah chapter 19, right? Now this is a prophecy that sometimes Christians will conflate and try to make it seem like it's dealing with non-Israelites, right? But we're going to take a look at this. So Isaiah chapter 19 verse 18, it says, in that day shall 5 cities of the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan, and swear to the Lord of hosts, one shall be called the city of destruction. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord, right? When we look at Revelation chapter 11 verse 8, it says that our dead bodies will lie in the streets of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, right? Talking about Babylon the Great, the place in which we live, right? So when we're looking at this prophecy in Isaiah chapter 19, it's saying that in that day there will be 5 cities in the land of Egypt speaking the language of Canaan, right? This is a future prophecy, right? From when Isaiah prophesied it, right? So I see that as coming to pass today, right? Where here in Babylon, right, we see all throughout the scriptures that 10 and 7 are used as numbers of completion. Here we see the usage of the phrase 5 cities as opposed to 10 cities, right? So amongst the Israelites in Babylon, right, which is spiritually called Egypt, right? When we look at even 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and 15, the Most High God says that he's going to destroy all the land of Egypt, right? He will not suffer his people to live in Egypt anymore, right? This is talking about this place, right? So it says, in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be a sign for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt, for they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors. Why would we be crying unto the Lord? It's because of the oppression that we're going through. And he shall send them a savior and a great one, and he shall deliver them, right? Going to verse 21, it says, and the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know the Lord in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblation. Yea, they shall vow a vow unto the Lord and perform it, right? Are we giving actual oblation, actual sacrifices here? No, right? But we make our bodies a living sacrifice. If you are a brother on these front lines pushing this truth, right? Bidding our people to the marriage as our king, as our big brother, and our Messiah, who the world calls Jesus Christ, commanded us, right? Verse 22, it says, and the Lord shall smite Egypt, he shall smite and heal it, and they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them and shall heal them, right? So again, I had to put this last verse in here because when were the literal actual Egyptians ever with the Most High God, went away from them to return to him, right? This is clearly talking about us, right? And Isaiah speaks about this as well in Isaiah the 11th chapter. So if you can go to the next slide, brother. Isaiah, one more. All right, so Isaiah 11 in verse 11, it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea." Right, again, recover the remnant of his people from Assyria and Egypt, the first two countries that are mentioned. Right, verse 12, "And he shall set up an ensign to the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth, and there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt." So again, going back to Isaiah chapter 19, this is clearly talking about the actual Israelites, right? So again, when if you move forward, right, we have Joel, the second chapter, right, tying us back into Zephaniah chapter 3, which says that the Lord's going to turn to us a pure language that we may call upon his name, right? Well, in order for us to deliver, right, we would have to call upon the name of the Lord. So Joel chapter 2 and verse 32, "And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered, for in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call." Now, when I first came into the truth, right, I used to teach that if you're calling on the name Yahuwah, right, if you're calling on the name Yahweh, I'm not sure how the brother Zion vocalizes the Most High's name, right, that, well, you're not going to get saved. And my stance on that has changed and has evolved over the years, because when you look at the word for name, Shum or Shem, depending on how you pronounce it, yes, it denotes a name, right? But when we look at, for instance, the Nephilim, they're in the Bible, they're said to be men of renown, right? That word for renown that's translated into English is Shem or Sham, right? So how were the Nephilim men of renown? They were known for the things that they were doing, right? The scripture says the Most High is known through his judgments, right? So it's a reputation, right? They had a reputation of being certain type of men, right? Same thing with the Most High God. So I don't teach today that, hey, if you're calling on the name Yahuwah, or if you're calling on the name Yahweh, or however anyone who adheres to the modern vocalization for the Most High's name, I don't believe that you're not going to get salvation just because you're vocalizing it differently. And that's something that I've had to come to understand and evolve on as I've grown in this truth, right? But you can go to the next slide, brother. And if you could click this video. So this is Dr. David Millian. If you want to, if you don't want to play it, I can just play it in my microphone and they can hear what the gentleman's saying. Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Headlines saying that he determined that the people who developed this script were speakers of Hebrew. His arguments haven't convinced many other scholars, simply because the inscriptions being damaged. to sounds in their own language. This is in the period of the 12th dynasty between about 1900 and 1700 BCE. So it would appear that people speaking a Semitic language and living in Egypt and Sinai adapted the Egyptian hieroglyphic or hieratic scripts to write their language using an acrophonic principle, the beginning of the alphabet. Proto-Sinaitic is the earliest known alphabetic writing system, and definitely the first in this particular line of ascent. You may have seen a few years ago that there was a scholar who made the headlines, saying that he determined that the people who developed this script were speakers of Hebrew. His arguments haven't convinced many other scholars, simply because the inscriptions, being damaged and worn, are hard to read, and no consensus has been reached on what they say. And with a script that doesn't have vowels, the exact pronunciation of words is guesswork, and it's difficult to tell the difference between Semitic dialects with such a system. Okay, let's listen.
So the reason why I put this here is because this historian and scholar. Okay.
To sounds in their own language. This is in the period of the 12th dynasty between about 1900 and 1700 BCE. So it would appear that people speaking a Semitic language and living in Egypt and Sinai adapted the Egyptian hieroglyphic or hieratic scripts to write their language using an acrophonic principle, the beginning of the alphabet. Proto-Sinaitic is the earliest known alphabetic writing system, and definitely the first in this particular line of ascent. You may have seen a few years ago that there was a scholar who made the headlines, saying that he determined that the people who developed this script were speakers of Hebrew. His arguments haven't convinced many other scholars, simply because the inscriptions, being damaged and worn, are hard to read, and no consensus has been reached on what they say. And with a script that doesn't have vowels, the exact pronunciation of words is guesswork, and it's difficult to tell the difference between Semitic dialects with such a system. Okay, let's listen.
So, I hope brothers and sisters were able to hear that, right? So the reason why I brought this out is because, again, when it comes to Semitic languages, whether you're looking at Hebrew, looking at Phoenician or Canaanite, Moabite, what have you, looking at these inscriptions, on a lot of these inscriptions, it's hard to really read a lot of these things because they've been damaged and weathered over time. Not only that, again, he attested to the fact that there's no vowels in that particular script there. So it's hard for scholars when they're deciphering languages and when they're looking at languages to know how they were pronounced. Now, in my peer review of the good brother Zion, I noted how in one of the sources that he presented last week that the scholars say that since there has been no active speakers of the Akkadian language, which is categorized as a Shemitic language, for some 2 millennium, that it's impossible to determine exactly how the language was pronounced. And the pronunciation of a language, right, whether you're looking at vowels or consonants, they don't know, right? The pronunciation used by scholars is merely an educated guess. This gentleman said it's guesswork. And then in the source that the brother Zion had brought out, it says based largely on comparison with languages related to Akkadian, such as Arabic, Amharic, and Hebrew. Now, I didn't get a chance to put it into the presentation, but this gentleman, he actually does a video where he describes how the Akkadian language, which is a Shemitic language, how the writing system was deciphered, right? It took years, right? And again, as scholars, regardless of whether they're saying there's vowels present or not, right? They don't know how it sounded. There's no way for them to know how it sounded. It's all guesswork. Okay, so that's the point that was being made in that peer review. But we can move to the next slide. So scholars, as they look at the Hebrew language, they look at Aramaic, they look at Arabic, they utilize this term called matres lectionis. Right now, let's just think about what does the word matres lectionis, what does that word sound like? right? It's Latin, right? So it's a Latin term, right? And it's believed to be a translation of a more original Hebrew term, uh, King Kiryah, right? Which is mother of recitation, mother language, right? Essentially, right? So when we look here at Matalectiones, right? The use, right? The first use of that phrase goes back to the mid 1600s, right? A gentleman by the name of B. Walton is attributed to being the first person in English to use that term, right? Where he says that the ancient Hebrew vowels are yet commonly called metrilectiones because they direct the reading in books not printed. Now, when we look at this original Hebrew term, there's no Talmudic reference to this term, right? Um, and then the earliest use of this term has been credited to a 10th century Karaite scholar who is said to have used the Arabic equivalent, right? Arabic and Hebrew, very similar languages, in his Arabic commentaries of the Bible, right? And this is something that was going on in his day because they were ruled by the different caliphates of Islam, right? And of course, the language of that was Arabic, right? So he made all these different commentaries on the Bible in the Arabic language. So this is a newer term, right? It's been coined by scholars as early as 1659, right? When we look at the Hebrew equivalent, right, there's no mention of it in Talmudic references, right? And then the earliest that this term is said to be used by someone is a Karaite scholar in the 10th century, right? I don't believe that those people are actually Israelites. And again, when we understand how languages change over time, and as I've painted through biblical prophecy, how language would change over time, and how the Most High God would have to restore unto us a pure language. Our language has been made unpure through the influence of other languages, the same way we as a people have been made unpure, right? Through us mixing and mingling and engaging with the heathen, right? You can go to the next slide. So different vocalization systems, right? So you have three mainstream vocalization systems, right? You have the Palestinian, the Babylonian, the Tiberian, right? So the Masoretes at Jerusalem, they're the ones that developed the Palestinian vocalization system. This dates back to the 7th century AD. An example of this is the Machzor Vitri, right? This is the name of the document, right? When we're looking at the Babylonian vocalization system, the Masoretes at Babylon are the ones who developed this. Dates back to the 6th or 7th century AD in the Codex Babylonicus Petropolitanus. That document is one of the attestations to this vocalization system. And then lastly, we have, of course, the Tiberian vocalization system developed by the Masoretes at Tiberias. Dates back to between 750 to 950 CE, which would be the 8th to 9th centuries AD, right? And of course, we have the Masoretic text as the prime example of this, right? So when the thing that's glaring to me, right, and I just want to correct something that the brother Zion said in his response to my response. I don't teach the Khazar theory, right? I believe that modern day Ashkenazim, right, which are not Israelites, they're not descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are descendants of converts. Those converts, the primary progenitor of those converts is an individual by the name of Onkelos. He is attested to in the Talmud, right? He is a convert, and then the Jewish encyclopedia attests to the fact that German Jews, Ashkenazim, this is where they get their zenith from, right? They descend from this guy Onkelos, and which is known as the Kalanimus family, right? So I'm not teaching anything about a Khazar Jew, right? When I'm talking about the Tiberian vocalization system and these different vocalization systems, these came way much after the vast majority of the children of Israel, right, who we are the descendants of, were cast out of the land, right? The vast majority of us was either killed, enslaved during the siege of Jerusalem, right? The first Roman Jewish war. Then, of course, the remnant of us that was there, we had the Bar Kokhba revolts, right? Of course, after that, there was a small remnant, and they were able to make their way out of Jerusalem, move further north into the to Rome's Syrian province, right, where they had a little bit more freedom. But as we look at the history, these individuals, right, their freedoms were infringed upon, right, and the Sanhedrin starts to die out, right, well before this time frame, right. So let's move forward. So looking at the Palestinian vocalization, according to Jeffrey Kahn, the Palestinian vocalization reflects the Hebrew dialect of Palestine from the 6th to the 8th century, long after it had become extinct as a first language before the 3rd century. Angel, Science, Badlos, and Kahn agree that the Palestinian Hebrew was a distinct dialect to the Samaritan Hebrew, the Hebrew recorded in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and to the Babylonian and Tiberian Hebrew, right? Now, why is this important? Now, my brother Zion, he brought out how the Masoretic text of Isaiah 44 and the Dead Sea Scrolls, that in the Masoretic text you have this vowel mark, this nakud that's put there, but in the Dead Sea Scrolls there's an extra y put there for the phrase for, as he would vocalize, Yeshurun, right? So this is important to understanding that, right? How these are distinct dialects. Okay, when we look at who the community that was behind the Dead Sea Scrolls, these were the Essenes, right? They were a very distinct sect, right? They were different from the Sadducees, they were different from the Pharisees, and they looked at the rest of Israel as a bunch of sinners that are all gonna die, right? That's how they got down, right? Listen, there's a group today, right, within our community that has a very similar outlook on the rest of us. That's just a little joke, right? But let's move forward. So then the Babylonian vocalization. So Babylonian Hebrew is said to have reached its peak in the 8th to 9th century, being used from Persia to Yemen. It gave rise to Yemenite Hebrew. So again, if anyone just goes online and just looks up Yemenite Hebrew, right, versus modern Hebrew versus Samaritan Hebrew, you will literally hear these individuals speaking differently, right? And all this goes back to their traditions, right? Their vocalization traditions, right? Who's to say which one is correct, right? It's hard to say. And what I think is interesting is that our King and our Savior, Hamashiach Yahushua, during his ministry, he truly preached against the upholding of traditions to the standard of the law, something that the Pharisees and the Sadducees both did, right? And this is just the nature of Israel and the state that we were in at that time, and there's no new thing under the sun, right? If you don't, there's brothers that if you don't believe what I believe, you ain't my brother, right? If you don't vocalize the Hebrew how I vocalize the Hebrew, oh no, we're not dealing with that, right? This is the mindset of our people. This is why at One West they said, oh, that modern box, man, that's that Yiddish, and it's not Yiddish. The brother Zion, he made that very clear on his presentation last week, and I've been saying the same thing for quite a long time, right? My previous channel got deleted. I had Hebrew lessons on there, and I literally went into how the modern box script, right, is used to write Hebrew. It's also used to write Aramaic, and Yiddish and this script are not synonymous, right? So again, this is just the mindset of our people, right? And these traditions, right? That's what they are. They're traditions, right? The scriptures talk about how our people are taught after the precepts of men, right? But how their hearts are far from the Most High. We can move forward. So this is the source I had read earlier, right? Which again is stating that Hebrew originally had an A, I, and a U class, and how the E and the O class, they stem from the I and the U class, right? So when Hebrew Israelites who are from the One West ilk, right? When they say, oh, there's only a A and an I sound in Hebrew, right? That's not necessarily true, right? Even how we would pronounce certain words, and again, I gave that example of the word Torah, right? And the word Jerusalem, right? Some will pronounce it Thawara, some will pronounce it Thorah, right? Some will pronounce it Yahweh, some will pronounce it Yaroshalem, right? That all sound is that U sound right there. But we can move forward. and that's pretty much it, right? Now, I didn't put it in the presentation, but I know the brother Zion, he had mentioned in his response to me that um, the Akkadian language that a lot of scholars attest to Arphaxad, right, and the descendants of Arphaxad being the original inhabitants of Acadia, right, of Akkad, right. Now, that, first and foremost, the city of Akkad, they have never it's never been identified, right? They have never found and said this is in fact the city of Akkad, right? So there's not much archaeology on that, and then even scholars are not in agreement on who these who these individuals were. Now, when we look at even, for instance, the writings of Josephus, right? Josephus states in chapter 6, I forget which book this is. I have a full compilation of the writings of Josephus. But he says Shem, the third son of Noah, had 5 sons who inhabited the land that began at Euphrates and reached to the Indian Ocean. For Elam left behind him the Elamites, the ancestors of the Persians. Ashur, which would be the Assyrians, lived at the city of Nineveh and named his subjects Assyrians, who became the most fortunate nation beyond others. Arphaxad named the Arphaxadites, who are now called Chaldeans. Aram had the Aramites, which the Greeks call Syrians, right? And then he just goes on to list a bunch of different other people that are mentioned in the Table of Nations, right? So even Josephus doesn't agree that the individuals of Arphaxad, that they were legitimately the inhabitants of Acadia, right? Other sources state that the phrase Arphaxad, which I would pronounce Arpachshad, right? Arpachshad, that literally goes back to Ur of the Chaldeans, right? So we know Ur is the city in which Abraham was born, right? And of course, he makes his migration northward, as the good brother Zion mentioned in his presentation last week, where of course made his way into the Levant, of course into Egypt and whatnot as well, right? So again, when it comes to the Akkadian language, right, Akkad, as we see in the scriptures, was founded by a Cushite, Nimrod, right? We even look at a city like Babylon. Babylon was ruled by Nimrod at one point. Babylon began to be ruled by the Elamites at certain points. Babylon was also ruled by the Amorites, right? So you have various different people groups that ruled these different cities. So to say that, the Akkadians are our ancestors, I can't agree with that. And of course, that was the basis that our good brother Zion had used to make the claim that, of course, this language has the vowel systems as well already in it, and of course that would also be in Hebrew as well. But again, I showed a source where it says that in Hebrew it originally had A, I, and U class vowels. And again, if you truly study Lashawan Qadash, and if you don't just regurgitate silly talking points over and over again, you will realize that we have a U class as well within our dialect as well. At the end of the day, how the language has changed over time is indicative in how languages change in general. And of course, prophetically, it says that the Most High God is going to restore to us a pure language. So when I look at that, I see that the languages in these different vocalization systems, whether it's Tiberian, Palestinian, Babylonian, that this is impure, right? And the Most High God is going to have to restore unto us a pure language, right? Also tying in Isaiah 19, that in the land of Egypt, 5 cities will speak the language of Canaan. With that, I yield. I can hear you. Mm-hmm. Oh, you asking if I can hear you like live on the YouTube? I'm not listening on the YouTube. Let me mute it, but I'll tell you. No, I can't hear you on the YouTube app.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Y'all can hear me? What about now? Can y'all hear me? Okay, yeah, so I'm back. I'm back. All right. Well, my fault for that mix up. I don't know what the program did to my microphone. It kind of deleted it when I changed those settings around. But I know y'all couldn't hear me before, but you didn't miss anything. I was just talking to Ahrayahla about making sure we got his presentation straight because I wanted y'all to really hear what the guy was saying on the screen. So that's all I was saying. We're about to get over to the brother Zion Lexx's presentation. So
Check. Can you hear me? All right, good. Let's get it. All right, so before I go into the first slide, and my presentation is not as long, I want to first say this. Good brother Ahrayahla said vocalization does not give us salvation. I completely agree with that. Anybody saying that because one West community differs from how biblical Hebrew sound, that they're not going to be saved, that's silly. That's no different than a lot of the silly rhetoric that we hear from a lot of One West brothers. So I agree with him on that point. But what I will interject and add is that although vocalization does not give us salvation, vocalization actually tells us what salvation is. What a lot of people aren't aware of, and this presentation is going to demonstrate very clearly, is that without proper vocalization, you can't even interpret the text properly. So let me say this and state this as an emphatic fact. As an emphatic fact. Anyone reading the Bible and understanding in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, that's based on the Tiberian vocalization system. That interpretation that we get is based on the Tiberian vocalization system. If you change the vowels in any of those words, in any of the words of the Hebrew Bible, you've literally altered the meaning. So by default, de facto, anyone that reads the Bible and accepts its current reading in English, you're basing that on the Tiberian vocalization system because every single word translated is translated based on the Tiberian vocalization system. That's an absolute fact. The second thing I want to say is this. He quoted a historian on language. I'm not sure if this historian has a language specialty that we needed to hear that. No one wears every hat. There's a saying, jack of all trades, but master of none. I want to know whether or not he has a specialty in Hebrew, right? We didn't hear that. I know that he did a video, and oftentimes biblical theologians will comment on Hebrew without even knowing Hebrew. So no one that is a grammarian that studies Hebrew would take that person's word as fact. We want to hear that from the Hebrew grammarian. So I'm not sure. I'll leave that open-ended. I'll also say this. Any scholar that's saying guesswork doesn't know Hebrew. The way that the Bible is vocalized is not based on guesswork. It's based on rigorous study, rigorous compare and contrast, and I'll show all of that. Lastly, what I want to say before I get into my next slide, my next slide is this. I actually like good brother Ahrayahla, and I actually love our Israelite brothers. Had this been any other person, I would go into kill mode. Had this been any other group, I would go into terrorize mode. But I will never humiliate or dishonor my brothers simply because of a difference in theology or a difference in how we see language. So although there's a part of me that says it's time to tear up, go crazy, I'm not doing that with this brother. This brother's an Israelite. I just want to make that clear for the channel. So on that note, brother, let's hit the next slide. All right. All right. I'm going to have to pull it up on my screen too, because I want to make sure that I can see the words. So just give me a second as well. All right.
Nope. No words.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I got it. I'm going to read it from my screen. My eyes not as great as y'all's. And if anyone can't see the screen, just blow up the screen and you should be able to see it. So I like profiles. So I have a profile on the screen. Shar Ahrayahla on Lashawan Qadash. Shar Ahrayahla teaches that Lashawan Qadash is the real way to speak ancient Hebrew. He teaches that the Tiberian vocalization system is based on Edomite European Jews who have co-opted the Torah and its original language. He staunchly believes that ancient Hebrew has two vowel sounds, ah and I, but he added to that tonight and he said, you. This position is fundamentally problematic because biblical Hebrew is not intelligible, translatable, or grammatically functional with only two vowel sounds. Hebrew meaning is encoded not only in consonantal roots, but in precise vowel patterns that determine tense, aspect, voice, gender, and syntactic role. Without a vowel system, distinctions between verbs, that was the question I asked him. Can you tell us how, based on Lashawan Qadash, whether we're saying he killed, she killed, or they killed? That's distinguished by the vocal system, and the fact that he was unable to do that should show everyone as proof the failure of Lashawan Qadash. Without a full vowel system, distinctions between verbs, nouns, and infinitives, participles, and construct forms collapse, rendering the Torah linguistically unstable and open to arbitrary interpretation. The Hebrew Bible itself preserves a robust record of pronunciation long before the Masoretes, as evidenced by matres lectiones in ancient inscriptions, Second Temple Hebrew, Dead Sea Scroll orthography, and comparative Semitic languages such as Akkadian, Ugaritic, and Aramaic, all of which preserve multiple vowels, A, E, I, O, U. A two-vowel model cannot sustain Hebrew morphology and would make consistent reading, legal precision, and narrative clarity impossible. Historically and linguistically, the claim that the Tiberian vocalization system is an Edomite European corruption is inaccurate and misleading. The Masoretes of Tiberias did not invent Hebrew vowels. They preserved an inherited pronunciation tradition rooted in the land of Israel, which aligns closely with the Samaritan Hebrew, ancient translations in the Septuagint, early rabbinic readings, and pre-exilic onomastic evidence. By rejecting this continuous transmission and replacing it with Lashawan Qadash reduced vocal system, Shar Ahrayahla effectively detaches the Torah from its interpretive framework and living grammar. This misappropriation of the vocal system strips the text of semantic precision, flattens its meanings, and imposes a modern ideological construct onto an ancient language. Rather than restoring ancient Hebrew, this approach distorts it, removing the Torah from the very linguistic mechanisms that safeguard its meaning, continuity, and intelligibility across generations. Let's go. Next slide. Just waiting till the slide goes on the screen. All right, good. The necessity of the Tiberian vocalization system for Torah interpretation. The Torah is not merely a consonantal text. It is a grammatical, syntactic, and semantic system in which meaning is carried by vowels as much as by consonants. Without the full range of the Tiberian vocalization system, Hebrew collapses into ambiguity, rendering verb tense, gender, number, voice, and syntax indecipherable, or unstable. The Masoretes did not invent vowels, they preserved and stabilized a phonological system already embedded in biblical Hebrew, Matres Lectionis, and even Paleo Hebrew traditions, such as the Samaritan Torah. Hebrew is a root-based language, but roots alone do not convey meaning. Meaning emerges when the root is vocalized. That's the voice that we're giving it in order to determine aspect, tense, infinitive. Remove the vowels, and one removes the Torah's ability to communicate time, action, subject, and intent. Next slide. All right. Verb tense and aspect collapse without vocalization. I want everybody to look at in red the two scripts. The first one is biblical Hebrew, or Kitab Asherit. The other one is Kitab Ivrit, or what some people call Paleo Hebrew or ancient Hebrew script. Verb tense and aspect collapse without vocalization. Consider the following consonantal root. Kitab. Without vowels, this root is meaningless. Once vocalized, Katav means he wrote. Kotev means writing, and that's now a participle, which is a verbal adjective. Yiktov means he will write. That's the imperfect. Kitov means write. That's the imperative. The way that we go through tense is through change in vocalization. Lashawan Qadash does not account for that. Therefore, if you're going by Lashawan Qadash, it is impossible that you're translating the Hebrew Bible accurately. Just as I asked Shar Ahrayahla a basic question in Hebrew grammar. How do you say he killed, she killed, or they killed? That's basic. That's biblical Hebrew 101. If you can't get past that, you're not ready to interpret the first page of the Bible. These are not optional interpretations. They are grammatical necessities. Without vowels, Torah narrative, prophecy, and law cannot distinguish past from future, command from description, or action from state. This same system functions identically in early inscriptions, Paleo Hebrew and Samaritan transmission. Where Matres Lectionis already mark long vowels later fixed by the Masoretes. Next slide. Gender and number depend on vowels. You want to talk about who's speaking, male or female, how many people speaking. You need vocalization for that, not spelling. Well, let's check it out. Hebrew grammatical gender is often invisible without vocalization. Consider the word for king, which is pronounced melech. That's rendered now as masculine. Malka is queen. Ask anyone that speaks Lashawan Qadash how you say king. They're going to hit you with mala'ak. They're going to hit you with mala'aka. That's feminine. I said this on my live stream when I responded to Shar Ahrayahla. Based on Lashawan Qadash, everybody you're speaking to is a woman. The feminine ending and vowel pattern are inseparable. Remove vocalization and Torah law concerning kingship, inheritance, lineage, and prophecy becomes indeterminate. This same feminine ah ending is preserved in Samaritan Hebrew, written with a hey as a mater lectionis, demonstrating continuity, not contradiction with the Masoretic system. Next slide. All right. Paleo Hebrew and Samaritan agreement with Masoretic vocalization. The claim that Paleo Hebrew lacked vowels is historically false. We know as a writing system, Paleo Hebrew is an abjad. Abjads, as it pertains to alphabet, do not contain within the actual alphabetic structure vowels. But in Semitic speaking languages and in Semitic orthography, you do have various letters that serve or function as vowel letters. While it lacked diacritical points, it still used mater lectionis consistently, which are various letters in the Hebrew alphabet, which can function both as consonants as well as vowels. Just to be clear for everyone, we all know that the letter U is a vowel. We know A is a vowel. We know I is a vowel. We know E is a vowel. We know O is a vowel. They can also behave as consonants. There are various letters that can behave as a consonant as well as a vowel. The letter Y, we say A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. Y can function as a vowel in English, and Y can function also as a consonant. This should be simple. The claim that Paleo-Hebrew lacked vowels is historically false. While it lacked diacritical points, it uses Mater Lectionis consistently, marking the same long vowels later encoded by the Tiberian system. For example, the Samaritan Torah regularly preserves final A with He, long O or U with Wav, and long I or E with Yod. These correspond precisely to the vowels Kamatz, Cholam, Shuruk, Zereh, and Kirik in the Masoretic Hebrew. The Masoretes did not create meaning. They froze pronunciation already preserved orally and graphically. I want everybody to pay attention to the screen. Mater Lectionis in Paleo-Hebrew. I have on the screen, everyone. Matter of fact, I just want to check the temperature in the room. Can somebody look at the screen and tell us what book in the Bible that we're reading? Somebody real quick in the comment section. I know that there are Hebrew readers in here. Somebody in the comment section tell me which book of the Hebrew Bible do I have on the screen?
Jeez. Let me go ahead and let's disqualify Divine. Divine, not you. Everybody else.
Can I answer? Can I answer?
It's fine by me. Zion, you want to answer?
No. This is for the audience. I want to make sure
Okay.
the audience can follow. Somebody said Song of Songs. Exactly. So we're in the book of Shir HaShirim. And I have on the right of the screen the Masoretic text. And on the left of the screen, I have a Paleo-Hebrew equivalent. So watch how this becomes real interesting real quick. You often hear people who follow Lashawan Qadash say, see, look at the Paleo-Hebrew. Even as I say to everyone, actually look at the Paleo-Hebrew on the left. There's no dots. There's no dashes. See, Paleo-Hebrew doesn't have vowels. Yes, it does. You just don't understand Hebrew grammar. In fact, you just told on yourself. The mere fact that you said that, I know you don't know Hebrew as a language. Any Hebrew reader would look at that and see vowels all over the place, hence my arrows. The word ha-shirim, you notice that the yod is functioning as a vowel, and it's marked as well in the Paleo-Hebrew script. It is not functioning here as an actual consonant, which yod can. It's functioning here as a vowel. If you look at the first word again, shir, which is spelled shin yod resh, in the Paleo, the yod is not part of the consonantal root per se. It is here functioning as a vowel. Similarly, you have hashirim, where the yod is functioning here through the kirik vowel system, where the yod is part of the kirik, so it's giving the e, so therefore it's not functioning as a consonant, it's functioning as a vowel letter, or what we call mater lectionis, and that's right smack in your face in the Paleo-Hebrew. Below, everyone should be familiar with this statement. We love to say that the Bible tells of the true color and flesh and skin tone of the Israelites, right? Some people use passages that may not be accurate, but I think that this is one of them that is very telling. King Solomon says in Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 5, he says, Shakora ani we anawa, I am black and deeply desirable. Okay, in the word Shakora, you see the hey here functioning as mater lectionis, as a vowel letter. It is absolutely not functioning as a consonant. In the word for ani, slika, in the word for we anawa, you see that the hey on the end again is functioning as mater lectionis, is functioning as a vowel. In the next word, banot, which is banot Yerushalayim, O daughters of Jerusalem, the O of banot is clearly not functioning as a consonant. It is there as mater lectionis. And then you see the same thing once again in the word Jerusalem. It's not Yara Washalam, it's Yeru Shalayim. Yeru in Hebrew means city. Shalem is peace. Yeru Shalem is the city of peace. But if you're going to say Yara Washalam, I don't know what you just actually said, but I can tell you certainly didn't say city of peace. Next slide. All right. Shar continually asked in his rebuttal to my presentation on your show, Where in these artifacts is Zion able to decipher and tell us how it's functioning as vowels? How do you know? How do these scholars know? How do they know? Because they know grammar. Something that I asked you as a test just to see if you know a little bit of grammar, and respectfully, your answer was very telling. You were challenged and perplexed at something that is considered Biblical Hebrew 101 and is very basic. Anyone that understands the basics of Hebrew grammar knows that their grammar functions and can show you the vocalization system. So we have here on the screen the silver scroll of the priestly blessing. The red Hebrew letters indicate which Paleo Hebrew letters in the inscription are being used as vowels. So you can see in the script itself various letters which are used as vowels, and they are highlighted in red. And that's right in the script itself. This is the priestly blessing of Numbers 6, 24 through 26, where it says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and grant you peace." Also known as Ketef Hinnom. This is dated to 600 BCE, and it clearly shows red Hebrew letters are being used as vowels, not as root consonantal letters. Next slide. This is how the Masoretic text with vowel points writes the name of Moses in Exodus 9:29. So I want everybody to notice the image on the right. The image on the right is comparing the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls. This Dead Sea Scroll is 100 BCE. So towards your point, Shar Ahrayahla, you said that the Edomites that are responsible for the Masoretic text, you said you don't teach the whole Khazar thing, but you do teach that they come from Ankylos. Well, Ankylos is after the 1st century Common Era. I am now in 100 BCE. Ankylos hasn't even been a thought yet. His parents aren't born yet. This is before him. And before him, there's a Dead Sea Scrolls that shows Matres Lectiones. So this is a photo of Exodus 9, verse 29 from the Dead Sea Scrolls, circa 100 BCE, and Joshua 1:1 from the Aleppo Codex, a 10th century manuscript, Masoretic manuscript, both showing Mater Lectiones. But allow me to explain. This is how the Masoretic text with vowel points writes the name of Moses in Exodus 9:29. Note the kolam vowel, dot above the top left of the mem, that's this right here, and pronounce O, and the shin dot on top of the right leg of the shin, making it SH instead of S, as well as the segol vowel, 3 dots under the shin, making an sound. So in pronouncing it, we get Moshe or Moshe. Now let's look at it in the Qumran Scroll 2 from Cave 2, Exodus Fragment A. This is how this Dead Sea Scroll records the name of Moses. Look at that. They added a letter. What letter did they add? The letter Wav. Anyone that studies Lashawan Qadash, they know that Moses' name is spelled with 3 letters. Here in the Dead Sea Scroll, it's spelled with 4. But the 4th letter, or the 2nd letter from Mem, is not acting as a consonant. It is not part of the root. It's acting as a vowel, what we call Mater Lectiones, and that's clearly being represented here in the Dead Sea Scroll text. It's spelled Mem, Wa, Shin, Hey. Note that it contains an extra Wa. That is because this Mater Lectiones, the process of adding additional consonants that can double as vowels. Here the Wav is used to represent a vowel sound. You can actually see this difference in the image above, where I have drawn red lines between each letter. Note that the Masoretic has Mem, Shin, Hey, and the Dead Sea Scroll has Mem, Shin, Mem, Wa, Shin, Hey. This is easy. Now
Next slide.
here, next slide, sorry. Here is where Lashawan Qadash completely falls apart. Completely falls apart. These are the 7 Hebrew verb stems, or what a experienced Hebrew teacher would call the 7 major verb stems, because there are more, but these are regarded as the major verb stems because of how consistent we see them. There are also Aramaic verb stems that are slightly similar, yet slightly distinct. You go from the Kal stem, which is simple active or active simple. You go from the Nifal stem, which is passive simple. You go to the Hifil stem, which is active causative. You go to the PL, which is active intensive. You go to the pu'al, which is passive intensive, and you go to the hufal as passive causative, and then lastly you have the hit pa'el, which is reflexive. But here's the bomb. The difference between all of this is vocalization. We speak of them as either the active voice or the passive voice. Why do scholars say voice? Because we're talking about vocalization. It's the vocalization of the text that will tell you the aspect, the tense, how verbs are behaving, whether an action is simple, whether the subject is doing the action, whether an action is passive, whether someone is doing something to the subject, whether an action is reflexive, the subject of the sentence doing something to themselves. Somebody, anybody, find me a Paleo Hebrew teacher, so to speak, that follows Lashawan Qadash that can break down this basic element of Hebrew grammar without stuttering. Next slide. And I'm keeping it light, by the way. I could really go in, but I'm being so respectful right now. Now here is where things get interesting. I forgot to ask Ahrayahla this question. I think I know the answer, but I could be wrong. My question that I wanted to ask him was, what are your thoughts on Deuteronomy 28:68? Do you teach that it is a fulfillment of the transatlantic slave trade? And I actually saw a video where he does talk about this, so I kind of did know the answer, but I still wanted to see what he would say live. So like many camps and many Israelites, myself included, we teach that Deuteronomy 28:68 in part is a fulfillment of the transatlantic slave trade. Well, newsflash, anyone teaching that, you cannot get that without using the Tiberian vocalization system. It's through the Tiberian vocalization system that those key elements that we're harping on to describe this can be inferred or can be related and conveyed. Without the Tiberian vocalization system, that entire premise collapses. But allow me to explain. Deuteronomy 28:68, why vocalization is imperative, and Masoretic Tiberian Hebrew. It reads, We heshivka, yod he wav he, Mitzrayim ba'aniot baderek asher amarti leka lo to'osif of leorita or leorota. Key elements depend on vocalization. The verb we heshivka, that's the causative hifil stem. He will cause you to return. Well, that's only vocalized in Lashon Kodesh, Masoretic Hebrew. You cannot get this explanation using Lashawan Qadash. Mitzrayim, the dual form, not singular and not plural, it's dual. I explained to Shar earlier about dual plural nouns and how the ayim is indicative of it. You don't get that in Lashawan Qadash. The term lo tosif, imperfect negation, you shall not continue. Without vowels, the verse could falsely be read as self-return, past tense, or non-causative. Now here is the Paleo Hebrew rendering of this based on the Samaritan Torah, and it's actually showing matres. So in the word we heshivka, you can see the ending on the end. In the Samaritan Torah scroll, their ending is not a kaf alone. As you see here, they end it with an aleph because they want to get the vocalization of ah. So again, in the Samaritan text of the Hebrew Bible, which employs Paleo Hebrew, even they are utilizing vowel letters as mater lectionis. And then in the term Mitzrayim, you also see the yod being used as mater lectionis. And then in the word ba'aniot, you have both the yod and the wav functioning in the Paleo Hebrew script as mater lectionis, vowel letters. Though unpointed, the mater lectionis preserve the same vocal framework and yod signaling long vowels. The morphology still presupposes the hifil causation. The Paleo Hebrew reading tradition vocalizes the verse in agreement with the Masoretic syntax. Thus, even Paleo Hebrew depends on vocal tradition. Without it, interpretation collapses. Next slide. All right. Summary. If Deuteronomy 28:68 is interpreted through the lens of Lashawan Qadash, it loses its prophetic interpretive meaning for the Israelite community. who teach that various key elements pertain to the transatlantic slave trade. This loss occurs because Lashawan Qadash's reduced vowel system cannot sustain the grammatical distinctions upon which the verse's meaning depends. In biblical Hebrew, Deuteronomy 28:68 hinges
One
on
second.
precise.
Let me. You didn't do that? Did you? You didn't gray it out.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Let me restart it. It just grayed out by itself, so they can't see it.
Okay.
It took me all the way back to the beginning. Let me go back to that last slide.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right. If Deuteronomy 28:68 is interpreted through the lens of Lashawan Qadash, it loses its prophetic interpretive meaning for the Israelite community, who teach that various key elements pertain to the transatlantic slave trade. This loss occurs because Lashawan Qadash's reduced vowel system cannot sustain the grammatical distinctions upon which the verse's meaning depends. In biblical Hebrew, Deuteronomy 28:68 hinges on precise meaning verbal forms, such as we heshivka, he will cause you to return, which is a hefil causative perfect, not a vague consonantal idea of going back. The causative stem, preserved through vocalization, indicates divine agency and compulsion, not voluntary movement. Likewise, ba'aniot in ships relies on an established plural noun pattern with internal vowels that distinguish it from other possible readings of the same consonants. A two-vowel system, I, or as he would also add now, the U, cannot reliably encode stem, voice, or plurality, dissolving the very grammatical mechanisms that allow the passage to be read as a specific coercive historical judgment. When the Tiberian vocalization tradition is removed, the verse collapses into interpretive ambiguity and loses the features Israelite communities often point to as prophetically specific: forced transportation, reversal of the Exodus, and irreversible exile. The contrast between yatzah, to go out, in the Exodus narrative, and heshiv, to cause to return, in Deuteronomy 28:68, is a vowel-driven grammatic distinction. You do not get that without the shift in vocal position. That signals theological reversal. Without it, the covenantal irony disappears. Lashawan Qadash's misappropriation of Hebrew vocalization, therefore, does not merely offer an alternate pronunciation, it strips the text of its legal prophetic precision, flattening verbs, obscuring agency, and severing the verse from the linguistic structure that gives it its interpretive force. In doing so, it undermines the very prophetic reading it claims to defend. Because biblical Hebrew prophecy is carried not only by consonants, but by the full grammatical system embedded in its vowels. I hope you guys heard enough to want to learn actual Hebrew. The case is closed.
Well, that was the presentation from both sides, both parties. Very, very, very powerful information from both brothers. We are going to move into the question portion of the show. So what I'm going to do is we're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to take questions from the clubhouse side as well, if there's anyone over there that has questions. But keep this in mind. How we're going to do this is very organized, okay? If you call in or if you come up to the stage on the clubhouse. If you're on the clubhouse, you got to, if you have a pink ticket, got to get rid of the pink ticket to come to the stage, all right? And you got to follow the room to do so, okay? But when you do come up to the stage or call in, you'll get one question or comment, okay? One question or comment. When whoever you direct your question or comment to responds to you, you get one more question, follow-up question or comment, okay? After that, if you're on the clubhouse stage, we're going to move you back to the audience. If you're on the phone, we're going to disconnect because we want to keep it going. Each brother is going to answer 3 questions, okay? If you call in, let me just say this too. If you call in and you are in agreement, let's say with Ahrayahla, and you say, hey, I'm calling in, we want a question. We want not just agreement. We want you to be able to say, hey, what does this mean? What does that mean? Same thing, Diane Lexx. If you call in, we don't want you being in agreement. Call and ask a question. What does this mean? What does that mean? All right. So let me open up the phone lines. Do we have anybody on a Clubhouse stage that has a question that don't have a pink ticket? If so, we can start with them first, and I'll get the lines open while we're doing that. Anybody on the Clubhouse side?
Not right now.
Yes, we do. No, yes, we do.
Okay.
We have some.
All right. Yeah, I see Dre on that side. He's raising his hand. If you bring him up, did he come up? There you go. Hey, Dre, we appreciate you joining us. Welcome to the stage. Who's your question for, and then or comment for? Then go ahead with your question or comment.
How y'all doing, man? Hey, peace and blessings to the stage. My question is actually for the brother Ahrayahla. So,
okay, go ahead. You can hear him, Ahrayahla? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How you doing, bro? So I had asked a similar question to the brother. So I just want to see how this is interpreted from the side that adheres to the Lashawan Qadash. So, like I mentioned, if we go into the book of Kings or Samuel, David's name is spelled differently in Kings or Samuel as it is spelled opposed to the book of Chronicles. So what's your take on why it's spelled differently as far as from the Hebrew? What's the difference that it's spelled in, and why, if you can kind of break that down for me?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know why it changes in the book of Chronicles, but when I look at it all throughout the scriptures, it's translated, it's written with 3 characters. And when we look at what his name means, beloved, that's why that is. His name literally, as I would pronounce it, Dawad versus Dawid, right? It literally means beloved. So I don't know why the scribe who scribed it in First Chronicles added an extra yod. I know Zion, he looks into like the oral traditions and whatnot. I remember him giving an answer based off of that outlook. Again, obviously I don't adhere to any oral traditions as Hamashiach and Hawashai truly taught against them. So yeah, I'm not too sure, King.
For sure. Thank y'all for the question, man. I appreciate it. Peace and blessings to the stage, the host, and anybody on. Peace out.
My question is, first of all, my name is Brown Walk. My question is for Zion. First, great presentation with both. Brother in my community teaches that type of Hebrew, Shar, Qadash. And my question is, I seen a source out of the Library of Congress, and I don't know if they mentioned it. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, Zion?
I can hear him.
Can Zion hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, they shook their head. Yeah.
Right. Can y'all hear me now?
I can hear you
Everybody's
clear.
saying they can hear the caller. They can't hear Brother Abia.
Okay, yeah, it was me. Whatever reason, my system deleted all my microphones, and in each scene I got to go to, I'm re-putting it back in. So forgive me for that. I have no clue why that happened. But go ahead, caller, with your question, your
Yeah. So my
comment for
question
Zion.
to Zion. I've been watching the brother for 9 years since I've been home. I've been in the truth for 20 plus years. Great brother. Like I said, brother in my ministry taught the same type of Hebrew. Lashawan, Qadash, I guess that's how they pronounce it. But my question is, I read a source out of the Library of Congress in the 1800s of an African speaking this. I actually have the source. So I wanted to know what was your take on that, because Now, I think it's important that we do learn the modern Hebrew. So don't think that I'm saying that this is more important than Lashawan Qadash, if I'm pronouncing it right. But I did see a source for that. So my question is it not Hebrew at all? Because why would the Library of Congress say that he spoke that, and this was the 1800s, and that he spoke that particular language? So this is way, of course, we know, before the One West. So my question to you is just simple: was that false, or the Hebrew doesn't exist, and is that source credible?
So you didn't quote exactly what the source said or the credentials of the source. That's number one. You noted that it came from the
Well,
Library of
yeah, I do
Congress,
have it. I
but
do have
the Library of,
it.
you can find. Hold on one moment. You can find cooking
Hmm.
books at the Library of Congress. So credentials mean
Hmm.
something too. So just because it came from the Library of Congress does not mean that it holds the weight of having grammatic authority or control or a handle on the language. Secondly, I want to
Hmm.
say this: when people speak of Matre Lectiones, or the Masoretic Hebrew vocalization system, as modern Hebrew, that's extremely inaccurate. I don't think anyone's calling things that are occurring in the first century BCE modern.
Hmm.
Um, it
Hmm.
completely isn't modern. As a matter of fact, I'll use the opportunity to explain this. When Hebrew is described today as modern Hebrew, it is because of what those elements that have been added to the language primarily by Yehuda, the person responsible for Yehuda's dictionary. He's the one that coined the term modern Hebrew, by the way, and it is innovations in language, innovations in, I'm not sure what the thing is. Innovations in language as well as innovations in society that lent to the reason why it's termed modern. So, for instance, today we have a car. There was no car in the ancient world, so we need a word to develop that. Modern Hebrew, as Shar
Right,
Ahrayahla
right.
pointed out, and this was
Hmm.
brilliant of him to do so, modern Hebrew does borrow from European terms and Arabic terms to coin the newly formed modern Hebrew term for a car, but that's representing something that's modern. When it came to things that are in the Bible, modern Hebrew doesn't revolutionize that. Modern Hebrew doesn't adjust that. It doesn't edit it. It remains the same. So modern Hebrew primarily refers to innovations in society that exist today. You having a cell phone, us right now on a laptop, us right now, streaming on YouTube. Those are
Hmm.
modern
Hmm.
innovations. Hold on, good brother. Those are modern innovations, and as a result, they call for newly formed words. So it's in that respect that Hebrew as spoken today can be called modern, as well as the introduction of the term vav for what we call in biblical Hebrew wav. That V sound is European. European Jews have a problem pronouncing the W. In Europe, in southeastern Europe, what we would concede as the W, they pronounce as V. In Southeastern Europe, what we pronounce as T, they pronounce as S. So they would greet you and they would say Shabbos, whereas we would say Shabbat. So those are the differences in terms of modern. But the vocalization system is not modern. Masoretic Hebrew is not modern. So the Israelite community needs to really understand to stop referring to the quote unquote block script as modern. The block script is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's clearly not modern.
Yeah, yeah. And first of all, John, just to let you know, I'm definitely going to be taking your class. So I'm the one that asked you about Isaiah 66:21, and you gave me the answer about that. So I well respect your information, my brother. My
Thank
last
you, good
thing
brother.
is I'm well studied in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Dead Sea Scrolls doesn't have vowel points. So how do we? My thing is, because don't think I'm arguing with you now because I'm a student first, even though I'm an elder. But the Dead Sea Scrolls, I know that they don't have vowel points. However, like when we go prior to that time, how do we find out for sure that it was vowel points when our ancestors walked the earth? So that's what's
So,
confusing me because the Dead Sea Scrolls has no vowel points.
so a distinction needs to be made, and hopefully on this show, in this moment, it can be really clarified. In the Israelite community, I want to say it's weird, but I'm going to say there's this grossly unconventional idea that vowel points added to the script meant that the script received vocalization for the first time. No, it did not. The script always had a vocalization. Even Lashawan Qadash agrees with that point, except that they limited to 2 or 3 sounds, as Shar says. So we're not saying that the script didn't have any vocalization. What the Tiberius scribes did was they took all of the known vocalizations for the entire script of the Hebrew Bible, and they preserved them by dotting them, by dashing them, and by drawing lines either above or under them in order to preserve the sacred transmission and interpretation, because it's the vocalization that guards the interpretation and then allows for faithful transmission.
Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me in, and blessings to y'all, all y'all brothers. Thank you.
Likewise, King.
Right, and I didn't get you or you didn't get through. If we don't run out of questions first, I'm going back and forth from the phones to the clubhouse. We're going to take one more from the clubhouse, and then if no phone call comes in, I'm going to call the last number that called. All right, Shaquall, go ahead.
Hey, Shalom, peace, family. First and foremost, I commend both brothers' work, man. This has been dope. I'm asking my question to Zion. I'm trying to understand and make sure I'm receiving the information. When you made the point about the major verb stems, and you were speaking about how it's inflected or verbalized, are you saying in the Masoretic, or I would say the most popular Hebrew that people use today, are you saying it's inflected with how you say the word versus what we see in the syntax, going back to the Paleo?
Okay, so first I'm going to correct something. Syntax refers to the structure of sentences. What you're really trying to say is morphology, the formation of words. So
Okay,
yes, it's reflected in the morphology. In the actual morphology of the words, you can understand aspect, you can understand tense. You can go from different conjugations throughout the Hebrew verb stems just by looking at a combination of the consonantal value as well as the vocal patterns. It's the vocal patterns that allows us to change voice, whether we're talking about a male or female. It's the vocal powers, it's the vocalization of the text, patterns within the text that allows us to know whether we're speaking of the imperfect, which is the future, or the perfect, which is the past. So yes, within the actual skeleton, the actual letters of the consonants, you can see a vocalization system. You can see that the letters Aleph, the letter Wav, the letter Hey, the letter Yod, they function in Dead Sea Scrolls as a Mater Lectionis. You can see them on the Misha Stela as a Mater Lectionis. You can see them on Canaanite inscriptions that are before 1000 BC, showing you the full range of Mater Lectionis. So various letters that form vowel letters. So what I'm saying is, most people even attempting, and I say this with all due respect, and I'm not speaking directly to you, I'm speaking to the community. Most people that enter this discussion can't even explain to you the basics of Hebrew grammar. So why even enter the discussion? If you haven't studied the basics of Hebrew grammar, how are you fit to give interpretation on these subject matters if you can't go through the basics within the grammar system? So until we actually learn the language with discipline and humility, we're going to come up here on a public platform. We're going to say things that are out of sync with what is true, and we're not going to move our community into the future.
All right, Shaquall, you got a follow-up question or comment?
Only to comment, again, this was a dope build. I think, it's inspiring to go back and learn both sides, because I'm at a draw simply because we can't find anyone, we can't dig anyone up from thousands of years ago and really see how they pronounce these words that we have saved on scribes or tablets or what may have you. But I think, again, I appreciate the information shared. Shout out to you, for creating the space. I appreciate y'all.
All right, appreciate you. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the phone line. A 614 area code was the last number to call. I'm going to call that back. Remember, the brother Zion has now answered 2 questions, and Ahrayahla has answered 1, so he has 2 left, and Zion has 1 left. They're going to both answer 3 questions each, okay? And remember, you can ask your question, make your comment. Then once you get your response, you can follow up with the question in the comment, and then we're going to move to the next caller. But if that's you from the 6-1, actually not the 614, I'm gonna start at 602. Let me give you a call back. Hopefully you answer. Call the brother for y'all.
Shalom.
Hey, shalom. Hey, Inside Nation Radio, you live. You got a question or a comment for either the brother Ahrayahla or the brother Zion Lexx. If so, go ahead and ask your question and comment. When you get your response, then you got a follow-up question and comment. You can get that out as well.
Yes, this will actually be for the both of them. I wanted to know who according to Amos chapter 9.
No, listen,
Amos
direct your question at one or the other.
Okay, Ahrayahla. My question for you, in Amos, the 9th chapter, Amos 9 and 12, let me just read it real quick. And I wanted to get your understanding of this in the Hebrew text. It says, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. According to this text, it appears that the other nations are called by the Lord's name. Also pursuant to the book of Acts, chapter 15, the prophets quote this in reference to the other nations. And then when you go to Amos 9, it says they're called by his name. Does the Hebrew agree to this understanding that we're getting right here? Like when you go into the Hebrew, is this saying that the other nations are called by the Lord's name?
Okay, so hey Shabar, I know that's you. It's funny that you would ask me this question about Amos 9. It's just quite fitting. But anyway, so you already know the stance, and the Hebrew would not agree with the rendering that we see in Acts 15th chapter, because that's quoting the Septuagint, not the actual Hebrew. Now, however, with that said, right, when we look at the context of Amos 9, starting at verse 11 and going into 12, and we're looking at the how this is rendered in this syntax, right? It's clear that the Lord's name is on the people who are doing the possessing of the remnant of Edom and the heathen, right? This would also agree with Isaiah 63 and 19, which says that they were never called by God's name. So when we read Amos 9:11, it says, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David. That's the subject that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, right? That they may possess. Lama'ain Yayarashwa, right? So when we look at this phrase, right, this is, of course, in the third person masculine. It's the imperfect or the quital type, right? And then it goes on to say, I'm going to move forward to the phrase where we see God's name, right? So it says, Ashar Nakwara Shamya Al Yaham, right? When we look at Al Yaham, the preposition al means upon, right? And then we look at the Yaham, it's a pronominal suffix, which is third person masculine. So the exact people who are doing the possessing of the remnant of Edom are the same people who God's name is on. And that's very simple.
Why do 90% of the scholars disagree with that breakdown? Are you a scholar? Yes or no?
Yes, and again, there's scholars who agree with my interpretation. So thank you very much, brother.
Zion, do you agree with that?
Not. Follow the rules, Shabbat. Hey, shalom.
I thought you said I could ask both of them a question.
No, I didn't. I said directly at one or the other. But shalom,
so
we appreciate you calling out. No worries.
Right.
Shalom.
This guy. Always trying to say the heathen.
All right, we got one more on stage on the Clubhouse side, and then I'm going to make one more phone call. Both brothers have answered 2 questions, and so there's one more question for either brother. So whoever asks the next question, for example, if the next question go to Zion Lexx, just know Zion Lexx has answered his 3 questions. Last question has to be for Ahrayahla, okay? Both brothers are going to answer 3 questions, and then we're going to call it that. Who we got on the Clubhouse side that's next? Lithium.
Yo, shalom, King.
Shalom.
Question's for Zion. I want to know what he perceived as the name of the Lord, because I heard him use the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Wav He. What's the name of the Lord according to him?
I have another question, Abia. You saying?
Say
Yeah, I
what?
was asking what's the name of the Most High God,
Hold
because I
on,
heard you
Lithium.
use Yod He Wav He.
Hold on, Lithium. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
What'd you say,
Thanks
Zion?
for answer that.
Different.
Oh, I thought you said that I had 0 questions left, but if this is my third and last question, I'll certainly answer it.
Yeah, this is your last one.
Okay, the name of the creator is Yod He Wav He.
All right, cool. Because when I'm looking at the King James, which is translated by 47 Hebrew scholars, they use it's 3 syllables. They use Yahweh or Yehovah. When you look at the 1611, it's 3 syllables. So going back to the 1611, the scholars then they didn't use Yod He Wav He or the Tetragrammaton to pronounce his name. And the last thing
When
I
you
just
say
wanted to say,
scholars, when you say scholars, can you name one?
no, when you look up the
Okay.
people who translate the King James, it just said 47 Hebrew scholars, so they are obviously linguists. It doesn't name each individual, but we know that
Okay.
they knew the Hebrew. But the last thing I wanted to say is when you said Moshe, that's an opinion. When you add a Wav, it doesn't change the name of Moshe. Like most Hebrews say Masha. So I don't, like the brother Ahrayahla brought
Masha
out.
means to draw out. It's not being used as a name, it's being used as a verb. And that's the difference between knowing the language and faking the funk. The term Masha means to draw out. That's a verb. When you want to have a name, which is a verbal adjective, now you have Moshe. That sound Moshe creates a participle, which is a verbal adjective. Now you're describing him as the person that was drawn out, Moshe. You would have to know Hebrew to even know that difference. Good sir.
Yeah, I understand that, but all names have a meaning. Like Jesus' name is He shall save. That doesn't change the way it's
Okay,
pronounced just
so
because it has
explain
So,
the
a
so if
meaning.
that's the name, explain to me the grammar.
It doesn't mean it has a different
You're not
pronunciation
answering my
because it has a
question.
meaning,
If that's
brother.
the name and that's the meaning of the name, then based on whatever vocalization system that you use, explain using grammar why that pronunciation yields that meaning.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the actual grammar. I'm talking about the
Okay, so next
pronunciation.
caller, good brother. I'm done, man. Next caller.
He ain't want
all
me to
right.
talk.
All right. We
Next caller.
appreciate you, Lithium. All right. For the
No
clubhouse
doubt, King.
side,
Peace.
we
Shalom.
are. All right, Shalom. For the
Easy
clubhouse
work.
side, we are done on that side. I'm going to give the call back. Area code 614. I'm going to give you a call. Make sure you turn the show down in the background. Just
And
remember that Brother Zion Lexx has answered all 3 of his questions. We
I,
have one
I
question
gotta
left,
get
and that
I
would be
gotta
for
get
Ahrayahla.
something out, good brother. That
Mhm.
call right there is a classic reason why the Hebrew community cannot grow currently. We lack humility, we lack patience, we lack discipline. The brother's answer, the brother's statement clearly demonstrated he never studied the language, but he's so sure. He said several scholars say this, he couldn't name one. That's the Israelite community for you. Lack of discipline, lack of humility. On this topic of this conversation, I enjoyed my dialogue with Brother Shar. It's a beautiful dialogue. This is not a debate, it's a discussion. If it led up to an actual debate, I'm sure we both would bring out more sources. But I want to say for our community moving forward, this is how you talk to your brothers. I don't hate my brother because I differ from his stance. I know he doesn't hate me. I explained to him behind the scenes that we should exchange numbers. He agrees. We ain't going back to go plan, oh, I'm gonna get him on this. I'm not doing no more videos on this. I'm done on this. I'm not talking against this brother after this. I'm done on that. Unless him and I move forward and decide to have another discussion, it's done from here. The Israelite community can't go into the future if we keep behaving like animals with each other. We don't have that energy for the oppressor. We got that
Facts.
energy for each other. And to me, that's insane. My apologies, Abia. I just felt compelled to say that.
No, facts. No, it's good to say.
47
Definitely need to
scholars and
hear it.
can't name one is crazy.
Facts. 614, give me your call now.
Shalom.
Hey, Shalom. You live with us. Your question has to be to Ahrayahla since Zion Lexx has answered all 3 of his questions. So you get a question or comment, and once he responds, you get a follow-up question and comment, and then we're going to bid you shalom, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Okay. I can go ahead and speak?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. My question was in Judges chapter 12, verse 6 about Shibboleth and Sibboleth. Did the ancient Hebrews speak different Hebrew back then? And is that an issue that we're having now? And also about the IN, the letter IN. I was taught that it's the I in Yahweh Shah because it's pictorially an I. And when you pronounce IN, it's IN. So is that the reason why it's a vowel point I? Because in modern Hebrew or biblical Hebrew, the IN is silent. So that's my question.
Gotcha. Shalom King. So I actually think your question concerning judges where the gentleman could not properly pronounce Shibboleth but pronounce it Sibboleth. I think that speaks to the fact that our characters had specific sounds. In Zion's presentation, he showed how in the Masoretic text they will dot on the shin to let you know whether it's pronounced with a "sa" character sound or a "sh" sound. And I'm glad that you asked this because clearly the individual just wasn't able to vocalize the name properly, right? And when you look at how that's rendered in the text renders the incorrect response Sibboleth with the Samach character as opposed to the Shin character. And again, I think that speaks to the fact that these sounds, these characters had distinct sounds. When you look at the Masoretic text and how their vocalization system, even the word Shabbat, right? The last character is a Tha character. So I would pronounce Shabbath, not Shabbat. Why would there be a Tet character and a Tha character? Why would they make the same sound? Same thing with, again, the Shin and the Samak. So I think that's a great question. Now, in terms of the Ayan character, some people pronounce it Ain, right? We would pronounce it Ayan, right? Looking at the actual grapheme itself, it is an I. It literally looks like an I. So when we understand that, we look at the Hebrew language being its writing system being an abjad, being a consonantal language. And again, as I brought out earlier today, you have you have A class, I class, and U class vowels. Again, that's why we would say the name of the Son of God is Yahweh Shai, as opposed to Yeshua or Yahusha. But that was a great question, King.
hmm And also, too, I think it's Zechariah chapter 6, verse 11 through 12. Do you believe that's where his name is being prophesied at? That's the reason why some say Yahweh Shah or Yehoshua or Yahusha. And where is it prophesied that Yeshua is the actual name? Like, where is it biblically prophesied that his name will be Yeshua?
Well, when you look at actually Second Ezra's, I believe it's the 7th chapter. It says, "In 400 years, my son Jesus will appear." And when you look at what Jesus would be in the Greek language as well as its transliteration in Latin, right? You see Jesus, you see Jesus, which would be the Latin. That goes back to the transliteration for the Hebrew name of Joshua. So we would take the position that the Messiah's name would have that Ha character and not drop it as we see in the more modern, very close to Aramaic rendering of that name. That's the shortened version. And the reason why that is because when we look at in the book of Exodus, we know that angel that was following us around in the wilderness, that was Yahweh Shai, right? As other people say, Yeshua. The Most High says that my name is in him, right? So when we're looking at Yahweh Shai's name, right, the name of the Most High has to be in that name. So hence Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, right? And again, that's the same rendering of Joshua's name. My good brother Zion Lexx would say Yehoshua, right? That's how he would vocalize Joshua's name. Christ and Joshua have the same name, and hence we will vocalize it with Lashawan Qadash as Yahweh Shai, still maintaining the meaning of his name, which means he says that Yah at the beginning, that prefix denotes he is doing said action. So Yahweh's name literally means he saves, and of course his name, the Most High's name, has to be in him. That's a good question, King.
Hey, Color, we thank you for giving us a call. Well, actually, I called you, didn't I? But we thank you for asking
Yes.
the question, though, anyway. Hey, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you on the next one. Shalom, shalom.
Layla Tov, good night.
All right. So we have reached the end of our show. Went a little longer than we wanted to, but we are here. Yeah. Hey,
But
shout
it was a
out to
good
the
show
brother.
nonetheless, man.
It was powerful, man. And shout out to this brand new father right here, who got to get back to his newborn. Hey, shout out to this brother right here, man. I'm gonna give you both, before we let you go, because I'll still be on here a few minutes afterwards, closing out. But just give y'all some closing words. Whoever want to go first, just jump right in there and give us your closing statements, and we're gonna bid you a good one, and hope to see you again on Inside the Nation Radio.
I'll let Zion go first.
Okay, absolutely. So thank you, Abia, and thank you, Inside the Nation Radio, for hosting me again. I enjoy it. I intend to introduce a lot of controversy into the community as of recent. The next topic that I'm actually going to be coming back to talk about is that 12 tribes chart. That should be very interesting. I want to say I commend my good brother Shar Ahrayahla for holding to his righteousness and his integrity. Because I didn't have experience with him, I expected a lot of the behavior that I see in the Israelite community. I thought that when he did his peer review, it would be crazy, it would be disrespectful. And I was completely surprised because I have no experience with him, but that made me, form a genuine bond and love for the brother. And again, I just want to say to the community that differences don't mean enemies. Unless we're talking about somebody is immorally out the box, me seeing something different than him does not make him my enemy. And I know for a fact he doesn't see me as his enemy for those reasons as well. I also want to say to the community that people continue to ask me, what is the creator's name? What is the creator's name? Since I'm so good on the pronunciation of the language. I come from a school of thought where we don't pronounce the creator's name on public platforms. We speak the creator's name in prayer. We speak the creator's name in a congregational setting, but we do not speak the creator's name just publicly on YouTube for anybody to have. There's a reason why the creator gave that name to the children of Israel, and he never revealed it to any other nation. And I would like to keep it as such. On the note of coming back for the 12 tribes chart, set it up, Abia. I can't wait. And to my good brother Shar Ahrayahla, Toda Rabbah for a great dialogue, a great discussion. I want to say Mazel Tov on the birth of your son, you becoming a new father, and I wish you the best, good brother.
Praise to the Most
Exactly.
All praises. Yeah, man. Again, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh, do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. This was a great conversation with the good brother Zion Lexx. We've never spoken before. I wanted to do my peer review in a respectful manner. I did feel like he kind of tried to flex on me a bit on his brother. He used the Brooklyn theatrics, and I ain't gonna hold that against the brother. You know what I mean? I'm from Brooklyn as well. So again, I appreciated it in just for the sport of what we do. But again, it was a great conversation. Just so everyone knows, like, I'm not fluent in Hebrew, right? I never seek to be fluent in Hebrew because I understand prophecy and understand that the Most High God is going to restore unto us a pure language when we are delivered, and He puts His law in our inward parts, right? My journey to understand the Hebrew language was merely for to have further and deeper understanding of the text that we're reading, and that the Most High God said He would speak to us in another tongue. So when I look at One West and the things that we've been taught, again, it's important that we advance. I'll give you an example. When I came into the truth, we were taught that you can't have a shape up. That Leviticus 19:27 is talking about shape ups. That Leviticus 19:27 is not talking about that, right?
Facts.
Now I need a haircut right now, right? Yeah, I mean, see, I'm back waving right now. I know Zion had all my pics with the long hair and whatnot, but I'm back waving. So when I get my haircut, I'm gonna get gonna get a shape up, right? Now I'm not gonna mar the size of my beard, right? But again, like, we were taught things, and we have to actually examine the things that we were taught and actually move forward. And Zion made a great point last week where he says, the foundation that the elders left for us, right? It would be it would be bad on our part to not like correct some of the things that they said that was wrong and not improve on the things that they did. So when it comes to understanding the Hebrew language and as we vocalize it as Lashawan Qadash, I've advanced from just the basic things that I learned from who I learned from. And again, I think that's important that we continue to be open to learn and to grow and to truly look to advance. Again, on that point, we were taught the I don't want Palau. That don't make sense. I don't want the phrase I don't want Palau does not make sense. Lord to pray, that's not Lord's prayer in Hebrew, right? So that prayer that we've been saying and vocalizing for years is grammatically incorrect, right? And I actually took it upon myself to actually get that, to translate that, right? Given these different stems of these verbs and how it's supposed to properly be vocalized. That's actually available on my channel as well. So Abaya, the water for having me on the platform. Zion, the water for entertaining and having a dialogue with me. We definitely got to chop it up and exchange contact. Next time I'm in Brooklyn, I'm at the slide on you. All right, bro?
Definitely, man. Definitely. I'm with it, man. I'm definitely with it, good brother.
All praise to the Most High.
Awesome.
Next time I'm in Philly, I definitely want to come by as well, man. Next time I'm in Philly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Awesome. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. This is what we try and do on Inside the Nation. Not saying no other platforms don't do it like this, but we think we do it the best. Peaceful, building conversations between brothers, man, making connections. Brothers who ain't never, dialogue before, had a conversation before. We did the Brew League one time. We had all type of artists who never knew each other. I didn't know you made music. Well, I didn't know you made music. Now you seeing, features everywhere, bringing brothers together in different ways, man. That's what the platform is about. So, hey, thank you to you, both of you brothers, for bringing out powerful information. I definitely appreciate it. And I'm going to bid you both a good night. And I'll be reaching out to both of you, just for some ending words after I come off of the platform myself. But shalom to both of you. And man, for on even other topics, hope to have you on. I know Zion said he want to do the 12 tribes chart, so y'all get ready. So if anybody who's an expert in that, y'all want to have a conversation, by all means, and I know both these brothers got their own platforms, but Ahrayahla, if you got something you want to come back on, I definitely love to have you. Again, these brothers got their own platforms though, so just putting it out there. But hey, shalom to both of y'all, and y'all appreciate y'all. Have a good night, and I'll see y'all next time.
Hey, yo, Abaya, I need that first track that you played, bro. I need you to send me that, because that first track was hard.
Oh, that Crucial Garage False Prophet? Yeah, I got you.
Oh, that's Crucial? That's my
guy.
That's
Crucial.
Yeah. Okay, all right, that's Crucial.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you when I get off of here.
All praise to the Most High.
All right, shalom to both of y'all. Shalom.
All right, I got your number locked. Take care, man. All right, shalom.
Can y'all hear me now? I don't know why I use OBS, right? I don't use StreamYard, and in the OBS you got to add your sources and everything. Whatever happened when I switched over to first PowerPoint so y'all can start hearing it, it went through all of my scenes and just simply deleted my microphone. So as I'm going from one scene to another, I see in the chat, you can't hear you. So my apologies for that. Hopefully y'all can hear me now. Let me turn my volume up, see if I can hear myself. Yeah, I can hear myself. So I was just simply saying, so let me just restate what everything I was saying. I was just definitely giving appreciation to them brothers for coming on the platform. We have more great shows lined up for you. Thank you for everybody who hit the like button. Thank you for everyone who super chatted. Thank you for everyone who called in, everyone who took the stage on Clubhouse. We definitely appreciate y'all supporting the platform, coming to be a part. Next week, again, as I was saying, I got to look at the calendar, but we got Captain Tazariak, ISUPK. We're going to have a Freestyle Friday talking about various topics that's been, you know, a topic in the nation over the, you know, last several weeks, a few months or whatnot. Going to be talking about that. And as y'all heard, the brother Zion Lexx wants to set up a 12 tribe chart discussion. And as y'all see, our discussions are peaceful on here. We don't do all the screaming and yelling and back and forth. That ain't how we rocking. All right. Organized, controlled, so people can actually hear, learn, and grow. Right. And so we also got, as y'all saw in the chat, Divine reached out, Divine Prospect, another scholar in the community. He wants to come on. Let's book a show. Of course, let's do it. So we're trying to get these shows lined up and trying to push out that image where brothers can actually come together and talk versus fighting all the time. And I got to apologize to the community myself, because in the prime of Inside the Nation, when we were coming up doing this, we kind of disappeared for a year. So there's a lot of people who knew about us. There's a lot of people just now learning about us, but we've been around for about 5 or 6 years. So if you're new to us. So with that being said, man, we're going to get out of here. I appreciate y'all. Again, still roughly almost 300 people watching. We're going to go out and play some tracks, how Inside the Nation do. You know what? Y'all know how we do it. Nobody got the tracks we got. Hey, if I gotta make a brag, that's the brag. All praises to the Most High, man. Hey, listen, we got the hottest music. We kind of feel like we the inventors of it, pushing that music out in the Israelite community. I may be stepping across the line, but y'all get what I'm saying. But we finna go out. I know Ahrayahla said he liked that track, False Prophets. That's gonna be the first one we go out on. I'm gonna play a few tracks. So again, next week, make sure if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Also click that bell and click all notifications so you can know when we're here. Next week we got Captain Tazariak, ISUPK. Then after that, again, we're gonna be setting up Zion Lexx for the 12 tribes chart discussion. If you want to be a part of that, email me, okay? I got to find somebody to have that conversation, but you can email me at insidethenationradio@gmail.com. insidethenationradio@gmail.com. And now you can't just be anybody. You gotta know your stuff now. But email me if you're interested in that, all right? So, hey, shalom to everybody. We finna go out on some fire tracks, man. So check them out. I'm going straight back to that first one I played coming in. This is Crucial Courage. And this is False Prophets.
Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. Don't know what that feel like. Gon' wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still cry. They still sighing, you still alive. Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. We don't know what that feel like. Don't wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still cry. They still sighing, you still alive.
It's a lot of bloodthirsty wolves rapping in the prey wearing sheep's clothing. And I don't like snakes, keep my grass cut so low you can't even mow it. Boy, your ears itching, you a hypocrite. What you doing when the book closed? Woe to the pastor that scattered the chosen, causing division, we gotta expose it. My people, they out here starving, you at the ATM making deposits. Some of these niggas be worse than these Christians with fringes and ribbons on hips of their garments. Do anything for the clout, praising your house shot out of your mouth. But lead us to slaughter like slaves in the auction, you traded your life in the field for a house. In the latter days, there'll be many that are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, doctrines of devils, falling away. And in that day, many shall say, have we not prophesied in that name? But all those that loathe thy law, the same will know it after death through pain. Like damn, you was just banging on Esau. Now you all hell banging on these laws. What's up with your doctrine? I thought you was solid, my nigga. I never thought you was a fall. I know we all gotta answer to God. Yeah, how wish I know that I'm bearing my cross. But any man teaching, don't keep the commandments. At least up in heaven, I'm praying for y'all.
False prophets, don't know what that feel like. Gon' wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real life. You came in like a savior, like you had a favor. My people still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still alive. Ain't rockin' with no false prophets. We don't know what that feel like. Don't wanna hear about your dream. No Martin Luther King, boy, this is real
Hey, Mike, that's a fire, huh? That's right.
Still die. I can hear the pain and they still crying. They still sighing, you still alive.
Hey, y'all must have thought I was playing when I said it. Because when I said it, I meant it. We got the dopest tracks in Israel right here on Inside Nation Radio. If you ain't subscribed to this channel, I don't know what's going on. I really don't. We're going to get another one. Got one more coming up. We just had some powerful builds, so I ain't gonna lie to you. This kind of my favorite part of the show right here. Just be jamming out. Uh-oh.
When God on your side, you can talk like this. Draw a line in the sand, nigga, cross that wrist. When Christ crack the sky, we gon' slide, nigga. The left side or the right, pick a side, nigga. When God on your side, you can talk like this. Draw a line in the sand, nigga, cross that wrist. When Christ crack the sky, we gon' slide, nigga. Left side or the right, pick a side, nigga. From the concrete jungle, yeah, you know we roll.
If y'all don't know who this is, this my big Qadash right there. He on the screen with the shades. Shout out to True Nation.
Strip grip blue, but the fringe and the rolling gold. Yeah, niggas hopping on the tracks where they verses cold, but never focus on them verses that can save your soul. All praise to Yahweh, yeah, we giving honor. The irony, I'm trying to drown in this living water. You live that fast life, it's a quick end, nigga. Get your hands off your hips and put your brick in, nigga. A lot of niggas know the truth, but they ain't really fear it. This shit ain't on me, dog, it's in me, feel it in my spirit. A lot of lessons learned on this road, repenting. Still out here on the field, yeah, you know the mission. Only focus on the wins, never counting losses. That Holy Ghost face killer, big brute boss shit, nigga. When God on your side, you can talk like this. Draw a line in the sand, nigga, cross that wrist.
Album coming in February.
Slide, nigga. The left side or the right, pick a side, nigga. When God on your side, you can talk like this. Draw a line in the sand, nigga, cross that wrist. When Christ crack the sky, we gon' slide, nigga. Left side or the right, pick a side, nigga.
Separate the sheep from the goats, but they say I'm the greatest. It's ironic how I'm both. One of them ones the flow can lead slave revolts. I'm a star refugee, ghost flowing through my posts. Look at me, I'm the captain now. Make them faggots walk the plank for the nation. We ain't backing down. They switch sides like the tassel on a captain gown. Acting like they about that action. It's the famous Jet Jackson. For the father, I'm a savage. I done lost all my compassion. Kidnapping, get ravaged, sacrificing, gift wrapping. Why you watch my niggas starve? You wax fat, big back, and now you food for the maggots. When the kingdom get established, Holy Ghost, face killer, group boss. It's an issue, 21, it's a knife. If them scud missile missions, we gon' boom bye bye till it's kumbaya. Then mama say, mama side, mama kusai, my nigga,
Yeah. Double homicide.
When God on your side, you can talk like this. Draw a line in the sand, nigga, cross that wrist.
Hey, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put together Inside the Nation Radio mixtape. We're just gonna put it out there for download. Y'all can go to the website when I get it, download all these tracks, have something to listen to, jam to. I'm also gonna get with the brother Zion and the brother Ahrayahla about putting the PowerPoints down in the presentation, in the description. It's not there now. I'm gonna try and have it there tomorrow. All right, so that everybody can go back and get the presentation. I just want to make sure. I forgot to ask him. I didn't get the okay, but I'm gonna get the okay from them and go back to it.
How you doing, man?
All right. So before we do that, let's get one more track. Let's go out on one last one. This is my old school favorite, Nat Turner. If you don't know about Nat Turner, Light of Zion, LOZ, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I don't know where you been at.
Because the picture of dry bones in the valley is talking about you. The picture of Lazarus laying dead 4 days is talking about you. You're Lazarus. You're the dry bones. You're the prodigal son. You're the lost sheep. You're the people about whom the Bible is speaking, who will stand up in the last day when the trumpet is sounded. Black people are waking up. Black people are standing up. Black people are rising up, and they're throwing sight into that knee-shaking white man.
I keep on having visions that they put me in the auction, a runaway slave till they put me in the coffin. Tears in my eyes with a noose around my neck, screaming Kwam Yasharala right before my last breath. I can't believe my eyes, cause I'm seeing life distorted. The prince is in chains while the servants drive Porsche. He ain't want the baby, so she had an abortion. Grown men walking around in women's clothing, the daughters of Zion is acting like whores. Remove this cup of me, cause I can't take this shit no more. 1611 got a sharp under my sword. Living in the third day, it's gonna be a holy war. Lobo up at my table in the presence of my enemies. Talk behind my back, but they don't keep that same energy. Tell me how you real, but you got them fake tendencies. Manipulating scriptures, you ain't nothing but a Pharisee. Got me suicidal cause I can't tell my friends from my rivals. Gotta keep my rifle right next to my Bible. Father, please forgive me for my sins and wicked ways. I know I violated on that covenant we made. Picture in the day we see a solar eclipse and watch it how a Shar walk over that water in Flint. Cause it's time for revenge, that's what I read in Revelations. And we don't want no money, we need blood reparations.
I mean that because these white folks see us as thugs. I don't care what y'all think. I don't care if you think you a lawyer, if you a man, if you an African American, if you whatever you think you are. We thugs against these motherfuckers, you know? And until we lose, I'ma call it like it is. I just wanna be a man in the store, you know? And we can walk outside different houses, ain't a man in these motherfuckers.
I'm not Turner on this beat, Dutty Butman flow. Oppression and poverty while you slay my people though. Y'all dirty pigs gotta pay for what y'all did. Y'all fed the babies to gators, remember gator betas. I call it nowadays because revenge is sweet. Y'all hung my fathers from the tree cause they look like me. Boy, letter to my dog, man, I ate a cool. Turn like coal, you could call them as I run on spoons. My scripture break his bones, and then it make you strong. We study it for hours, this word ain't for no cowards. We building us as soldiers, it wake you up like Folgers. We prophesying wins, we looking for the wins. Cause we don't take no L's, we coming up from hell. My scriptures ain't for sale, my soul is never sold, and I will never fold. Woman under deodorant, fluoridated water. Children on the street, selling bodies for a quarter. Fringed up with my beard, mixture on my head. I look around, see a lot of spirits dead. I see the demons talking, I hear the spirits chirping. I see the spirits walking, I see my people hurting. You looking at the sons of the true and living God. Weak Edomites run the world, something nah. Teach my hands to fight, and please prepare my spirit. Banging for our power until the people hear.
I sit alone in my four-corner room staring at candles. No, literally menorahs, all this OGs I see. Staying lit like the light of Zion, that's all I be on. Qadash and Karatas are all a passion, eat them peons and make it look so damn good when we slide through. Can't see the shoes up under my garment, it's like we glide through. Really, shame in these shade face cavemen every other day.
Hey, Yakira, you didn't even have to put it in the chat. I was waiting. I said the name of the song at the beginning when I first started. Somebody wasn't listening. I was gonna say it again at the end, just trying to let the song play out. Damn, to call me a gatekeeper just because I'm being patient. Be patient.
By your mentality that you probably know. Ask you if you got it with fringes, you saying probably no. Obedience is better than sacrifice, so we stay on par. The same reason Zaquan Matata, why call me Basadar. You still don't get it? Better move boy, we them rude boys ain't no bullshit. Repent or get your wig split. Hold the Torah open, let me show you what I stand on. Thinking we ain't keeping commandments, boy, you dead wrong. Back to the place where commandments can only get us what you talking about. Edomite witness, now you can't come with us. It's a closed party, only march to the Ahrayahla gon' enter there. 12 gates with no white people. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And it's a celebration. Salute to the light of Zion. Ahrayahla. 12 tribes of Ahrayahla. Be obedient to the Most High God. Keep the law, statutes, commandments. Keep the light of Zion burning bright. Ahrayahla. Isaiah 8:20. Law, statutes, commandments. Faith in the Messiah.
Bashem Yahweh Bashem Yahweh True sides. Drawing the swords, hitting the bows, severing thumbs, and head toes. Beheading kings, as in the times of old. Spoiling the women and children, silver and gold. The fishermen that put away the fishing poles. In very small numbers, Yahweh sent forth his hunters. Strong towers they conquer, over walls they jump, over heads they stumped, over heads they stumped. This is the hunt. This is the almighty power of revenge that make mighty men cower within. By his mighty hand we've been brought up out of this land. This is our exodus. Don't kill the messenger, just take the messages. Are you listening? Are you listening? This is our exodus. Don't kill the messenger, just take the messages. Are you listening? Open up your ears. This is our exodus. Don't kill the messenger, just take the messages.
All right.
LOZ.
Man, hey, Greg Moore, 1817, that's a crazy comment. And man, the brother Yaquib, I see you went back and deleted it. I appreciate that. God, to call me a gatekeeper when I said the name, who sung it, who the people was, and was going to say it again at the end. I'm just trying to let y'all enjoy the music. Y'all thought I was playing when I said Inside the Nation got the best music in Israel. I'm just letting you see something. But that was Light of Zion, and the name of that song was called Nat Turner. Nat Turner by the Light of Zion. All right, that's the body and organization down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. LOZ. All right, the Light of Zion. That first track I played with False Prophets, that's Crucial Qadash. All right, right now, currently, you don't have anywhere to go and get that. I got that. I'll be playing it for everybody, but I am going to create a mixtape and have all this for y'all available soon. So y'all bear with me. I said that was the last one, but this is the very last one, and then I gotta go. Just to prove the point, ain't nobody rocking like Inside the Nation rocking. This called King David. This LOZ again. Light of Zion. King. Let me say it. Hold on. Let me slow it down. Say this. Make sure I say this clear. I don't want to gatekeep. This song is called King David by LOZ, Light of Zion, from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Oh, King David. Let's get up. Frankincense, myrrh and frankincense, frankincense, myrrh and frankincense, shit. Said it was 40 days, 40 nights. We was
False Prophets was by Crucial Qadash as well.
So because I gave it all to Christ, they saw Goliath, and it was on sight. Hit the heathen with the rock, cause the heathen couldn't fight. Cut his head off, and then he put it on the spike. All my Hebrew Israelites, we about to ride tonight. Bye, kumbaya, send you to the afterlife. But you gotta walk by faith because you cannot walk by sight. I could turn water into wine, pork on my fork, I could never chew the swine. And my body is a temple, got it looking like a shrine. You can keep purple dollars, but you running out of time. Solomon, 110, gold teeth, when I grin, banging on Esau. This revenge of the twin. If you win, Yasharella, we ain't kin, we ain't friends. All that have breath, praise it, how amen. Amen.
Hey, I'm not gonna say who won because it was just a conversation and a discussion. You go back and watch it. We're not gatekeeping, but you decide what you believe and understand throughout the presentation.
Rocking this melanin, what is you telling me? We are the gods, y'all love is irrelevant. Kings of the earth, we had it since birth. Y'all took it away, Isaiah said y'all would pay. Struggling, hustling, money wasn't doubling. Mama working, daddy gone, grandma died, now I'm alone. What's going on in my life? When I was 10, almost lost my life. No, son, your purpose isn't finished. So I kept on pushing, and I kept on searching. Found the true God, God knows I was hurting. And demons kept lurking, but I kept on working. Now I know for certain who's the true God. It's that John 5:39, search the scripture. And Isaiah 45, it paints the perfect picture. Come out of my people, Jacob run the world. We the kings and the gods of the earth. You wasn't nothing. You heathens burn. The tables turn.
Hey, Greg Moore, it's all love, King. It's all love. It ain't that serious. Definitely appreciate it, though. But I'm gonna get that mixtape out to y'all. So listen, we about to get out of here. That's the last track. Man, I definitely appreciate it. It's still 155 of y'all, sitting here jamming with me. 11:33 p.m., at least on the East Coast, Friday night, 11:33 p.m. Appreciate y'all. Next week, again, we got Captain Tazaria, ISUPK. We're going to be discussing all of the craziness and discussions and topics and changes and turnarounds and everything that's been going on throughout the community. Y'all definitely make sure y'all tune in. Remember, Zion Lexx said he want to have, that discussion about the 12 tribes chart. You know what I mean? He want to have that discussion. I feel like it's just going to be shots fired. You know what I mean? But in a peaceful way, though. In a peaceful way. So anybody who want to feel like you want to take part in that discussion, I may even make it a panel. You know what I mean? A panel discussion. But if you feel like you want to take part in this discussion, email me at insidethenationradio@gmail.com. With that being said, Israel, shalom. The next Friday at 8:30. Make sure y'all here.
It's Friday night, and you know what time it is. It's another episode of Inside the Nation Radio with your host, Ahrayahla. Hit that subscribe and like button. It's showtime.